that's like the mental health break. It's like probably from all of the social media, all of the, you know, this growth of it, bro. That's why we see so many young kids unalive themselves at a rate that we've never seen before in our society.
I think it has a lot to do with what Bates was saying about the continuous headlines. Like, as a society, it's gotten to the point where like there's so many headlines coming at us so fast that we don't even really have time to decipher or like process what's actually happening, because every single day it's another thing, to where a lot of time I feel like our nervous system doesn't even have a time to like rest and digest, because the survival mode consistently by headline after headline. Not only that, like you said, the gambling stuff is destroying their financial pocket. The dating market is different, so they're all gooning to all the sites that, you know what I'm saying? So like the loneliness
that are owned by our greatest ally.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what, to touch on what Baze was saying, that's like the issue is that there's all of these these nodes of it in the infrastructure that are like attacking our mental health at all times.
You know, it sucks too, because the technology we have right now, like if you'd have told me as a kid who grew up in the 90s that they were that like kids as young as like 9 years old would have devices where they could talk to and see and communicate with all of their friends from their pocket, that they don't have to share it with everybody in the family, you know, like a landline phone, like growing up in the 90s. Like, no, you have your own device that's also a computer connected to the internet. You could play games. You could even watch, you know, well, I could say it now, but you can watch porn on there, and it's literally going to be the worst thing for you. You know what I mean? Like, you think like, oh my God, cell phones, like these kids have it freaking made. And like, it's literally the worst time in history of like the last 80 years or so, at least, to like grow up, you know, just like to grow up. Like, this is such a horrible time to have to be a kid and just grow up and then go through puberty, and just the way that the world is. It's terrible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I would say this is equally like the worst time and best time ever to like have lived, right? Maybe not the worst time, but it's like one of the worst in the last century, since World War II, probably. But on the flip side, it's also like the greatest time ever in history, like ever. Or at least
I was talking
the history that
I was talking more for childhood and for development.
I think the children think that it's a great time because the access to the screens is, if you have children that do have screens, it's like a full blown. I mean, to be honest, I'm a recovering addict. I have almost 8 years clean this November.
Congratulations.
I was addicted intravenously to methamphetamines and heroin. And so when I watch my kids, how they act with their devices, it's like almost
very
identical.
Similar.
Yeah, I say the same thing with my kids too, that they're like hooked, and like, you know, like
they'll go without eating.
Like, my stepson, anytime you tell him put it down and like do chores, and then you say like, oh, you're gonna have to, like, we're gonna take it away if you don't do what you got to do. It's like
it's not about the
face,
substance,
stomping around. No, it's the dopamine kick.
Correct. Yeah. It's not about the substance. It's about the dopamine. And and that's what it is. And there's a really great book that I suggest everybody read. It's called Dopamine Nation, and it's about how like our world has completely destroyed our dopamine systems and the repercussions that we as a society are having because of it. Highly suggest that book, Dopamine Nation. But one thing I will say, I just wanted to say one thing of like what I'm experiencing the last 48 hours in kind of like what Trevor was saying. And is that, you know, I went, you know, up to the Bay Thursday night, got back Monday night, and that whole time I was directly with my woman, right? And we kind of, she's like gone half of the time, so we're like long distance half of the time. We live together half of the time, and have for years. So it was like really great to have her like right by my side the whole time, so I don't have to be on the phone with her. The only time I was on the phone was like when I wanted to record a video of the band I was watching, or I was catching a lift. Outside of that, I wasn't on my phone. I disconnected from X and all of the social media platforms. I had no idea what was going on in the world for 4 days. And I have been struggling for the last 24 hours since I got home to like put myself back into it. In fact, like I was like this morning, like very hesitant about like, but it's like doing what I do. I have to know what's going on in the world, right? So that I can do what I do. So like for whether it be for Web and Buyer or whether it be my live streaming or whatever, I have to know what the fuck's going on. So I was like, but I got to go in. And
so then I have a question. I
was just like,
because I resonate with that. So on my streams, we talk about a lot of different topics, but I'm also like a super spiritual being, and I have lots of spiritual people who watch my stuff, you know? And so when sometimes I get on a kick and I'm just in the Epstein stuff, like deep in there, you know, and people, so like there's certain things about this choice path of work or a hobby or whatever it may be. My question is for you is like, what do you guys do to stay baseline? Because like this stuff does get heavy, bro. And then it's hard also to not get catastrophically, like your thoughts of the future, like, fuck, I'm sorry about the swear word. It seems to me like, to be honest, I want to be hopeful, but a revolution I feel like in order for anything to actually happen, like people aren't even rioting for the Epstein stuff, but they would over George Floyd, you know? So like,
that was manufactured, though. If George Soros wanted to start splashing some money around to get people rioting over the Epstein files, it would happen tomorrow. You know what I mean?
I guess that's
all these riots,
how much
the No Kings protests, like I've done the research.
Right. How much of the Epstein files? How much of the Epstein files do any of us actually believe is 100% real? Like,
yeah, no, that's true too.
You know, but Jimmy, how about you go first, answering how you kind of keep level-headed while reporting on the absolute abysmal type stuff that's happening that we report on every day.
It's a couple of things. First and foremost, it's because I have kids, I have a family, and that gives me the drive to just focus on making the change. I do not have the time, and I cannot afford to sit around feeling like sorry for myself or feel bad or just worry about it. Like, no, it's like the way that I see it, that these are problems. They're problems that need to be solved. And even if I can't, like, I don't have the ability to wave a magic wand and make everything better, like, it gives me a purpose to do what I can do to make the changes that I can make, because everything starts with your health. It starts at home, and then it branches out to your community. So I make sure to spend time with my kids. I don't always eat good. I got some McDonald's waiting for me in the other room, not going to lie. But I just started working out again. Working out makes me feel a lot better. I read. I don't watch TV anymore. Like, I rarely watch movies. I don't really watch any shows. I try not to just read stuff like this. I try to read things that like stimulate my mind. A lot of time to myself, a lot of like mental decompression. And I started praying, you know, like, I know not everybody believes in God and everything, but like, I'm not going to lie. I went to the bottom of the Epstein rabbit hole and I found Jesus, and that's the truth. And I do believe, and Trevor, that's why I love your content. I love it, man. And I believe it too, that we are spiritual beings. We're living out a physical experience. And I think listen, there's a chance we're going to die, and like, that's going to be it. And if that's the case, then so be it. I'm going to make the most of it. But yeah, I believe that life is a test. I believe that there is something after death, and I don't know what it means. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is there was a time that I let my morals slip, and I did not have, you know, for most of my life, like, I've always been honest for the most part. I was never a thief. I was never a cheater, you know, like that. But there was times that I had a mental health breakdown, and a lot of it had to do with a lot of people very close to me that had died. It really started with my brother. I had a brother that passed away. He actually dropped dead of an asthma attack at 22 years old. I was 26. Bro, and that's that really
scariest thing, bro.
Yeah, that really crushed me. And then I had a fallout with my family. I wasn't talking to my mom, my sisters, or anybody for a couple of years. And then COVID hit, and I lost my grandfather. I lost two very, very close friends. Then I lost an aunt. Then I lost another aunt. Then there were some other people that I had lost. And this is all after, you know, 'cause I moved around a lot when I was a kid. And the kids from the town that I grew up in, there were a lot of people that lost their lives to the opioid epidemic. And people that I was close with at a point, and then like people that were like little brothers and sisters of people that I was friends with in school. So it's like people from the community. It might not have been like my best friends or people that I hung out with every day, but it was people that I used to see around consistently. And now it's like, I can't even count how many people that I know that have died. You know, so from my viewpoint, it's like, yeah, things are going to get bad, but they've already been bad for a lot of people that I've known for a long time. And they've been bad for me. But the fact is like, I'm still here, you know, and I have people that, I got people that depend on me. So like that's it. Like, I just got my game face on. Like, things get worse.
Yeah.
You know, like when that NDAA got passed, I was really down on myself for a couple hours that day. And then I woke up the next day. So I'm like, what are we going to do? How are we going to react to this? And then I realized, like, no, we don't have to react. Like, I just got to keep doing exactly what I've been doing, because the NDAA getting passed, that was their reaction to what we're doing.
Facts.
Right. That's them realizing that the situation has drastically changed for them. You know, it's like almost like a
that was a now or never move for them.
Like
if they didn't pass it now, they weren't going to pass it.
Right.
Yep. And that fight is still fighting, for sure. You know, for me, it's a couple of things. One, Hatch really helps me. It's just the truth.
What really helps you?
The devil's lettuce.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's and you know, my girlfriend has been telling me for years that I should stop using it as a coping mechanism, and maybe I should, but unfortunately it just helps me out. The other thing being is my sheer will of not being led into any one way of thinking or doing. I can't do it. It's like I'm just my therapist told me that I am oppositionally defiant. That is my personality type. If you tell me one thing, I say fuck that, no. Like, that's just how I am. It's ingrained in me. So if society is trying to, you know, if the psyops and everything, the Illuminati or whatever you want to say, the deep state or whatever, and they're trying to make us all one way, I just instinctively go the opposite way. Like, no. And so if I'm looking at it and it's like, if this is all a psyop, then they're trying to make us hate each other. They're trying to make us hate our world. They're trying to make us, you know, be fearful of the world that's coming, because if we're so fearful of it, then we will no longer act towards it. And my mind goes, well, if they're doing all that, that means that we still have the power, and they're hoping that we forget that.
We 100% have the power.
And if we're all meant to be miserable and doomerish and all that, then I have to be the opposite of that. And so for me, you know, I probably will never have a big platform, because my main message is unity, talking to each other, not viewing other people as the enemy, you know, and like I talk about that all the time. And so I can feel a sense of pride in what I say and what I do, because I know by the numbers, by the actions of the other party, that what I'm doing is the exact opposite of what they want me to do. And therefore I know I'm in the right, you know. And it's just, and maybe that sounds delusional to some people, but like, that is how I'm operating my way through life, is that my being happy, open, unified, inclusive of everybody and everything is the work. It may be the greatest work of my life. And if I can just do that every day, whether it's one-on-one or live streaming to 20 people or hopping on another person's live stream to 700 people, whatever it is, I know that I'm on the right path. And that's what keeps me grounded and centered through all of this, because I also recognize, as a marketing person, the manufactured essence of like everything that we interact with, everything. And so I just stay in opposition to that. and that keeps me grounded and like good. And again, like I said earlier, those powers that be wouldn't be doing all of the things that they're doing if we, the unified people, weren't an actual real threat. If we were no longer a threat, we would be living in 1984. We are not living in 1984 yet. And it's because we still have the power. So all of that gives me the audacity or the hope that like we can turn this all around, because I actually think that we can.
I agree. I think that to touch a little bit on, I guess, a little bit of God or whatever, you know, I think the biggest thing for me is to not be afraid. I do know that in the Bible, it says the phrase, do not be afraid, or fear not, 365 times, you know what I'm saying? Because and if you want to even take that out of the aspect of in a spiritual realm, we can see that the structures that be is a fear-based structure, because people who are scared are easier to manipulate. You know, I feel like when you're scared, they've already created a fear inside of you now to dictate where your emotional state go, what you believe, what you don't believe, how you feel about this, that, or the other is so much more easier for them to manipulate. So I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of like stupid faith, you know, like I just am so optimistic about at least what I'm trying to do, the way my specific path, you know, that just can't let the fear get in. Because sometimes, to be honest, man, there's a fear that wherever I am on my journey, I have a fear of success, bro. I have a fear of all of a sudden overnight some video goes viral and I've got 100,000 people looking into everything of my life and just this everything. You know what I mean? There's like a fear.
You don't have to worry about that, Trevor, because all of the skeletons of your past, you don't hide them in a closet. You've very openly and honestly, I watch your streams. You come out and you say, these are the skeletons of my past. They do not define me. They do not add value or dictate the value that my life is worth.
I just know people end up
so you can never be crushed by that.
All of a sudden you have like a suspicious death and it's like, oh, they overdosed. Oh, but they were clean for like 20 years. Yeah, just an overdose, you know? So like the fact that I don't know, maybe you guys, I don't know. Bayes, do you feel like that? I feel like anyone who's talking about the Charlie Kirk situation in depth and all of that stuff, like there is when you talk about certain things or you're on a certain lead or there's a hot piece that maybe that is connected to something that Charlie Kirk got Charlie Kirk for, if that makes sense. You know, do you feel like there are certain topics where, not that you don't want to talk about them because you probably still do, but when you're doing it, just the thoughts ever cross your mind like, dang, there's a red flag on the algorithm. Okay, yep, maybe I did make it the list. Oh, did I get searched in Israel this week? That type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. I had my own little mental breakdown before I even started making content, because I went really far down the Epstein rabbit hole. And I was using AI and I was using probability-based formulas to like help me with my research. So I had this like working model where every time I'd upload new evidence and new files, that I would run the math and run the probabilities. And now when you're doing probability-based formulas, it's never really going to be 0%. It's never really going to be 100. It's going to be like somewhere like, 0.5 to like 99, whatever.
Yeah.
So I started rounding. First, I'm like, all right, if it hits 99%, just round it to 100. But now what that did is that takes a probability and then it makes something definitive. It starts calculating it as fact. And once you calculate one thing as fact, then all of a sudden other things become fact. And then it changes the way that it does the research. It's like, okay, if you take this theory, this hypothetical, and now you put it into the equation as a historical fact, now one fact can change the whole thing.
Because everything's interconnected with information.
Yes. And that's what happened. So what happened was one day I was doing the updates and it's like, all right, tell me everything that, from today's research that's at 100%. And I'm like going through the list. And then I get to the bottom. It was like 38, 40 different things that were like, we now established as fact based on like the rounding formula. And at the bottom, it said that I was flagged. It said that I was flagged by intelligence, that I was probably in danger, and like that I might die. I'm like, wait, what's the probability that I'll actually get killed? And they're like, well, that depends. Like, right, as of now, you've likely just been flagged. They probably have an agent or an analyst like watching you and going over your stuff. As long as you don't post about anything, you're good. But the problem was I did post about a couple of things, and I posted on TikTok, posted on X. Like, oh, well, now that you've posted something, you might be in danger because now they see you as a threat. You're trying to pass. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like, oh, well, who'd be coming to get me? And then it was like giving the whole breakdown, like, oh, well, it's a 5% chance to be this, 10% chance. And it said like the highest probability, it said a 38% chance that it'd be a rogue Mossad agent was going to come to my house and kill me. And I'm like, fuck. So then I call my lawyer. I make a video fucking thing. I tell my girl she's got to like go to her mom's house. I was like really like, yeah. I was like really like, oh shit, like,
damn,
the first time it happened to me was when, after hearing Baron Coleman break all the stuff around when Charlie Kirk happened about the Google Trends,
Oh Oh, we're talking about months before that.
Yeah, this is for me. It was just that the spark of just being super paranoid for quite a while. I'm over it now, but was when I just I was just joking around with people and like searched my name, and all of a sudden my name's pinging in Israel over 100 times, and I'm all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, they're coming for.
It's not 100 times though, just so you know.
And it also
the Google Trends. They look for what that is there's an amount of times that was the most amount of times that your name was looked at. That could have been 3 times. That could have been 300 times. Could have been 3,000 times. Right. But you don't really know what that number was. So that one time of the most times is 100. Any other day that you had been looked at, it is whatever percentage of 100. So if the next times it's 30, then it was 30% of 100. That's one thing that confuses a lot of people. But one thing I can say is this, is that I operate my life in a way under the assumption that I'm being watched, under the assumption that I'm on a list, because I know from as early as the age of 16, I was on an FBI watch list, as told to me by the FBI. So it's actually really stupid. Me and my buddy, we were in a class. We were like, I think 15 or 16, and our teacher was missing for months, right? For whatever medical condition or whatever. So all we had was like a rolling cast of substitute teachers, right? So that class for that year basically became like a screw around class, right? Nobody gave a crap about that class, right? And so me and my buddy, we were really into the movie Heat. If you guys are familiar with
Great
Heat.
movie.
One of the best movies ever, right? And so we were really into that movie Heat. So essentially what we were doing was we were writing a Heat style fan fiction about a group of militia type dudes who were going to rob the only bank that we knew about, which was this bank in our small town. And so then we based it off of our town. And like we were talking about like holding up the street, there was 2 roads into the town, and we would hold up the streets with like, all this stuff. And then, we'd have grenades and this, that, and like all this weird stuff. And like talking about like shootouts in the street because we loved Heat. And the next thing you know, the FBI came to my school and pulled me out of class.
Really?
Yeah. And I was just like, listen, like this is like I didn't know the term fan fiction, but I'm like, explain to him. I was like, no, we're just like really into the movie Heat. And like, we're just like doing like a thought experiment on like, building out maybe like a script for a movie or something for fun. Like, what do you like, I was like an artsy kind of kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, shit.
I was like a weed smoking artsy kid. And like, then they came to me and like, and then like, well, we're putting you on a watch list. I'm like, okay, like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care, and then like, I've had my own run-ins in the past, and like I knew that I was on a DEA watch list. I knew that I was on a fly list, that they watched me extra carefully when I flew for a while many years ago. So it's like I just like always, like even back then, always ran under the assumption that I was being watched for whatever, like oh, Kevin lives his life in opposition of everything, so he's a threat. Like I've also like was really into like dystopian type stuff, and I just always assumed that that's the life that I'm gonna like always live. Now I'm like 41, and I'm just like, I really don't care. Like I don't care. I'm gonna come on here and talk to the 20 people I talk to, and I'm gonna tell them the truth, because that's as like I understand it in that moment, and that's all I'm ever gonna do. I can't do it any other way. I literally cannot. You can't pay me $7,000 to, you can't, like, none of that. Like, you can't do it.
Did you guys know Zach Loft?
Oh yeah, his Kalshi post.
Did you see his Kalshi post?
Yeah, yeah.
They, like, offered him they wanted to give him a partnership. Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna come for any of us who break like 100K, like on socials. I mean, you're right there, Trev. Like, you'll be getting these Kalshis soon.
Like I said, I think, to be honest, the gambling thing that's everywhere is just destroying the younger generation of men. It's giving everybody, like Mr. Beast has showed us just in plain day what people are willing to do and how disloyal and deceitful they can act to get money, and what they're willing to do for large amounts of money. Whereas like now everybody's just hoping on the fact that Jaylen Brown doesn't twist his ankle, not knowing that Jaylen Brown and the whole team actually is in on it, or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole entire system.
Not Jalen, bro.
Well,
Not Jalen,
my boy.
yeah.
Not my boy Jalen.
Jalen's a boss. For some reason, I actually just watched the Jalen Brown reel before I got on here. So that's, but that's the thing is like these sports betting things. It's like getting to where, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just everywhere, and obviously there's a purpose why we can freaking bet if Zelensky's going to show up with the tie or not. You know.
So that's the thing is what we originally talked about was sports betting, which affects sports, right? Makes you have to question sports in general, right? Especially with like in the 90s and early 2000s, all those refs and officials that were caught like, swaying games while they had their partners out making bets for them, right? But that's in sports, right? And sports is bread and circus, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It still destroys a generation of men, though. But
what the next part is the other part that you were talking about, like Zelensky's tie. That's not sports betting. That's prediction markets, and that is far more insidious because now all of the news agencies, all the mainstream news, they say, well, Kelce says this. The predictive markets are saying this. This is the odds, and they're literally gamifying and gambleizing. Like I don't know if that's not, definitely not a word.
That's a good one.
Everything I know, gambleizing freaking everything. So now war, the price of oil, and like everything else that actually has real world consequences is now being swayed by prediction markets, and now we're finding that the prediction markets are being like totally like, dude.
Yeah, but Kevin,
these guys
don't
need to do insider training? Like our senators don't need to do, and congressmen don't even need to do insider training.
Social premium.
They can literally sit there and say, okay, yeah, no, we're not going to do insider training on the stock market anymore, guys. What's the difference of them doing it with a prediction market? What's the difference?
That's true.
None.
Yeah, but
Zero.
Kevin, just think about this. All you got to do is cough up $500,000 a year, and you could be in Don Trump's Jr.'s country club or whatever he has, and you could brush shoulders with all the people that make these decisions and get the inside scoop.
Perfect.
You know that's the second most expensive club in America, allegedly. You know what the only one that tops it on the list was? I heard this yesterday.
What?
Mar-a-Lago.
No, yeah.
Mar-a-Lago's the most expensive club?
Yeah, I think it's like $1 million a year or something.
Damn.
Hold on, I gotta look this up. I don't want to be spreading misinformation.
But I mean, we're talking about the prediction markets, but what about like Donald Trump's True Social Premium, where he's giving access to people to pay him money?
It's so crazy.
Where he can like now, like these true socials that affect the market drastically based off of what Trump says. He's now giving them insider information to get these truths first. You know, that sounds gay even saying that truth.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. I just Googled it. It pops right up. All right. So I just put Donald Trump Jr.'s club, executive branch. Is that what it's called? Executive branch? Yeah, you can't make it up. Is an elite invite only private members club in Washington, D.C., co-founded by Donald Trump Jr., featuring a $500,000 membership fee and prominent tech and political figures on its roster. Located in Georgetown, co-founded. Here's a couple people.
Better. It requires $500,000, and then you're on a waiting list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pay to play, baby. That's America. Think about it, though. When Biden became president, myself included, everybody was jumping up and down about Hunter Biden being on that board. What was that company again?
Teresa?
Yes.
The Ukraine board?
Yeah, they're like, can you believe he's getting paid $300,000 a year or whatever it was? For what? It's corruption. And then you look
paintings.
now we went from jumping up and down that all the corruption from the Biden administration over a $300,000 annual salary board position job to now $1 billion DOD drone contracts that they're able to do. Come on.
Well, I mean, literally, Donald Trump last year made the most money off of crypto of anybody.
I actually went on. I did a rant the other day where I covered this, where when Nancy Pelosi announced that she was stepping down, and Donald Trump said it's like a great day for America. It's like, no, asshole. A great day for America would have been if you would have freaking investigated her and prosecuted her for all that insider trading. But instead, he's like, you know what? You think you made some money? Hold my beer. Watch what I do
Dude,
now.
Melania
and you guys
Coin-
aren't going to be able to say shit because of everything that you
Melania
did.
Coin made more money than Nancy Pelosi did in decades of insider trading.
But these are all
Yeah,
just
that's what they did. They said, "Hold my beer." They're like, "You guys
Literally.
got away with all this. Watch what we're gonna do now." You know,
And now friggin' Hunter Biden's out there crushing the podcast circuit.
Oh yeah, he's making a
And
comeback.
now I
He's
like
like
him
a
more
president.
than anybody in friggin' politics.
Well, the thing is, so check this out. Everybody had their little piece to say about Hunter Biden when he was smoking crack, telling people, hey, you don't want me to get my dad on the phone, do you? But then guess what? This dude did come back and say, you know what? This is what I did. At least one of these people from these elite class can be like, I did make some mistakes. Sure, he's not telling everything that needs to be told, but like,
listen, I am a very empathetic person, and I believe, like I said, I believe in God. It's up to God to judge people. If somebody is willing to own up to their mistakes and to repent and try to spend the rest of their time trying to do good for the world. And I'm not sitting here advocating for Hunter Biden because I don't know him from a fucking hole in the wall.
Yeah.
I didn't even really like look into his stuff. Like I heard what I heard, but it's like, like I wasn't investigating Hunter Biden, going down Hunter Biden rabbit holes, but there's definitely a lot of hypocrisy there. Like when everybody was going nuts about Hunter Biden's laptop, it's like, oh, like I covered this too with Ben Shapiro, where he's saying like that the entire intelligence agencies and FBI, that they're all corrupt, that they're all in on it because they're not prosecuting Hunter Biden. And then all of a sudden you get to the Epstein files and he's like, listen, if you're going to say that Jeffrey Epstein was doing this with these other people, then you're saying that the entire FBI is lying. Is that what you're saying? That the CIA, that the intelligence, that they're all lying? Yes. It's like, asshole. It was only a couple of years ago that you were saying the same thing about Hunter Biden. Now when it's, people on your team, really on your
whose
team.
laptop actually had shit on it? Fucking Anthony Weiner's.
Yeah.
Anthony Weiner, yeah.
Anthony Weiner's laptop had shit.
That I'm gonna have to mute that part because I covered that the other day. I had a nice little run, because I still have a small channel on YouTube. I just crossed 14,000 subs.
But you're growing, bro.
You're killing it, bro.
I'm growing.
AK like 2 months ago, bro.
I'm growing. I'm getting the rub from a lot of people. Like Valhalla, Jesse on Fire, Elizabeth Lane, like and other people.
That's
like
the name of the game.
They're all shouting me out. Like I'm getting people. Like.
You're killing it, Baze.
Yeah, no, I'm getting there, but I've got support. I've got a really strong team helping me. But my point is, I had multiple videos that were doing 6,000 views, 10,000 views, 20,000 views, and then I put out a 5-minute clip about Hillary Clinton talking to Rachel Maddow about how if the Russians are going to help the Republicans, then maybe China can look into Trump's tax records. Yeah. I'm sure people would love that. China, if you're listening, and then like. I went right into it. It's like, okay, China, if you're listening, why don't you get us what's on Anthony Weiner's laptop? Like I'd love to see that. That video got 250 views.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
They just like turn the
That's when you know you're
way
hitting the
down.
That's
way
when you know
down.
You're hitting on some truth, bro. That's when you know you're hitting on some truth.
And back to what I was saying before with when I had the whole like got nervous. I didn't just get nervous because like ChatGPT was telling me somebody was going to get me. I had spent weeks going down the rabbit holes of journalists
disappearing,
not just disappearing, but not with us anymore. Specifically, Danny Casolaro. I went really deep down that rabbit hole, and that story is just so sad. I'm not even going to get into the details now because like that topic is another touchy one, and plus I wanted this to be a fun stream.
Yeah. What about Gary Webb? Who we named? Yeah,
he was on the list too. There was a long list. I mean, again, I was looking into the Clintons too, so it was a pretty long list.
How you pew twice the back of the head is beyond me, bro. I don't know.
What about Mark Middleton? They said that he banged himself, then he hanged himself, then they got there, they couldn't find the weapon, then they found the weapon, it was 30 feet away. Yeah. It was a lot of weirdness going on.
Like David Carradine.
But anyway, like I'm sitting
Carradine
there.
Is?
Yes.
I don't.
But that one was a little bit. There was a little bit more to that.
Yeah, there was also a lot. They said more to that. There's also a lot more to that most people don't know.
Oh, I'm sure. There usually
which is that go look into John 12 Hawks, the writer, and go look into what John 12 Hawks was writing. And there are people out there, myself included, who believe that John 12 Hawks was David Carradine. Now he becomes part of that list too.
Oh,
and you look at his death. So for Trevor and for any of your audience who don't know, David Carradine was in, you would probably know him from Kill Bill. He was Bill, right?
Okay.
And he in Kill Bill, and he was like in a bunch of other, you know, movies and TV shows dating back to like the 70s. He's a really cool actor, but there was this theory that he was John 12 Hawks, and John 12 Hawks was writing basically like Annie Jacobson style, like where it's like everything is kind of rooted in truth, but like the names and the companies and things are like changed, kind of thing.
Right.
Correct, right? But like the essential like story of what they're talking about is true. This is like an old conspiracy theory dating back 15 plus 20 years or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's somebody who.
Oh, and he was the narrator for the audiobooks for John 12 Hawks. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So just a fun little conspiracy rabbit hole for you guys, but also too, you know, and with all of this, whether we're talking about how I don't believe in religion or how I don't worry about being on a list or really any of the doomerish stuff, is that I'm not even fully convinced that this is reality. So like, you know, like you watch enough Donald Hoffman videos, and if you don't know who he is, I highly suggest everybody watch Donald Hoffman. Donald Hoffman is a researcher out of UC Irvine, and he is a what is it called? Evolutionary game theory. He's like a professor in evolutionary game theory, and he uses like quantum computers to run all of these game theory type things. And like and basically he's like, well, all of our tests of like decades of research is that like the likelihood that the world around you, the things that you touch, the things that you experience, that those are real, the chances of that are not zero, or are basically zero. Sorry, rather, I have the wrong way around. Right. So basically, there's almost no chance that this is real. He likens the body and the eyes and the mind as like a computer screen. Right. And so on the computer screen, you have a file, right? And so on your file, you know that there's a document in that file. But what you don't see is the inner workings of all of the computation and all the things that are going on in your computer and on your screen, right? It's all dumbed down to here is a file. Right. And that is the world. The world around us is so much information because it possibly is actually a simulation, that the chances of baser reality being the real true reality is zero. So I don't get hung up about a lot of things because I'm not even sure that this shit's real.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably one of the reasons why I don't believe in God, because I think that there are so many. God is just the name that we give to the things that we can't comprehend, and there's a lot we can't comprehend.
Well,
So
how do you know God's not the one that's writing the code? How do you know? How do you know that? Like, isn't it possible that all this technology, that everything that we're doing, computers and just information, just everything, breaking it down to binary, is just our what's the word? I'm
as above, so below.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just out, like our subconscious, like just trying to manifest like how we were created. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Doesn't that align with your theories with like AI and transhumanists and everything that they're trying to like create?
Oh yeah, a lot of these AI things are based off of neural networks, like how they're structured, correct?
That's right. And what will bring AI forward to where it'll actually be AI, maybe even super intelligence, would be quantum computing. What gives our life if not quantum computing or the quantum realm, right? As above, so below. And so to think that we are on the highest of levels, I think is foolish.
Dude, I don't even think we're the highest levels on Earth right now. I am 1000% convinced that there is more land beyond Antarctica that they do not want us to know about, and that there is another civilization on the other side of that ice wall. I'm telling you. Listen, I'm not totally sold on like the flat Earth theory, although I am getting there. But I am totally convinced that there is another civilization and that there are other beings on this planet that they're going to try to pass off as UFOs.
I-
That probably Alex Jones was right when he talked about them being interdimensional beings as well.
I think well, for one, I do believe, I think that there's more land behind in Antarctica. I think it's kind of crazy that 173 countries all signed a treaty that no humans allowed to go.
Right after World War II, right after World War II, during the Cold War,
and then
we can't agree on anything. Yeah. Our leaders can't agree on anything.
Except
but they're gonna agree on Antarctica, that has like the richest resources, the cleanest water. You know what I mean? Like, really? Really?
And then that's not even, if you think about like you said, the aliens and interdimensional beings. Like, you know, I just feel like, I don't know.
I don't think that it's an agreement between the nations that they're not going. I think there's somebody else on the other side telling them to fuck off. That's what I believe.
So Admiral Byrd ended up in the Hollow Earth, where the Nazis were, because the Nazis were very into Hollow Earth, and may have even put an outpost there. Who knows?
Do you guys ever mess with Google Maps or Google Earth, bro? And go on like Street View. There's like places you can go to Antarctica, and you'll click Street View, and then it'll take you some crazy places.
Oh, really?
No, but you know what?
Check that out sometime.
You know what? I play a lot of GeoGuessr over the last year. I started getting like deep into GeoGuessr, and I'm like,
what's GeoGuessr?
It's these people who can guess the exact location on the planet based off of a picture, bro.
Yeah,
really.
Oh, bro, it's so fun. So you can there are these free GeoGuessr games, right? Tons of them. You could just look up GeoGuessr, and a fucking list of them will come up, right? And it'll give you like a Google Street View, and then you could look around, and you could like go down the street, and like you can have like your little area or something, and it'll blur out some of like the more obvious things, like, you know, license plates or things of that nature. And but like you have to go through and then use your intellect to figure out where you're at. And then you when you place that marker anywhere on the earth, then it will calculate how far you are away from that, and then you get points based on your distance from that. And the really good ones get very close. And sometimes I can get extremely close, but like if I'm like using Google and I'm kind of like, okay, like cross-referencing stuff, and I'm like taking my time, right? But it's a lot of fun. But one thing I will tell you this, of all the GeoGuessr I have ever played, I have never once gotten anything in Antarctica. Not once. Not ever.
That's crazy.
And I've played GeoGuessr on like 3 of the biggest GeoGuessr platforms, and I have never, ever seen Antarctica.
So then what do you think? Do you think that when people go down there for these expeditions, it's like military escorted? There's like, I don't know, maybe obviously officials, but like they only get to go to a certain spot.
Yeah, they're very isolated. That I know for a fact. I know people that have done it, and they're very limited.
You know Oliver Tree?
I was gonna. If you didn't bring it up, I was gonna.
Is that documentary? You know what I mean? Like,
I haven't seen it yet, but my boy
I
DJ.
thought are they actually releasing it? I thought
no. All I've seen is the YouTube video of someone filming it like on their phone when he was like showing it early to his people or whatever.
He's like, look over there. Yeah, it's the door.
He's like, we've seen orbs, we've seen things come out of the oceans.
I don't think that that's why Oliver Tree was killed, though. Which I do think he was killed. What's more likely is look at the history. And this is so like my buddy DJ Petrovsky, who's like crushing it on YouTube right now. Shout out DJ Petrovsky. He did a video about that and about Oliver Tree, and he and I have talked about doing a video together about all of the artists in history who were in active disputes with their record labels, usually UMG, because
Oliver Tree just like right before he died, a few weeks, put out a video saying him and Atlantic were parting ways. Or
so it was like 2 months before. So what had happened was, if I remember correctly, he had recorded an album. They shelved it. He came out publicly and said, they're shelving my fucking album.
Yeah.
And so then they got so much backlash from his community that they cut a deal with him to allow him to get his record back, to put it on his own imprint. But I think they also may have worked out a deal for them to do distribution for him. I can't remember all of the details off the top of my head right now. But yeah, so that all happened in the 2 months leading to his death.
I think it's kind of crazy
sure.
just how the whole the music industry works. Like, for one, we all know what people own the music industry, you know, but like, how many, you think about, like, for example, gangster rap, right? I come from a walk of life where I actually listen to a lot of it. And the fact that someone blows up on social media, next thing you know, they have a record label. You don't think that the record label puts out an life insurance claim on this active gang member who's running the streets, selling drugs, glorifying his crimes and his music, just biding time for when it happened circumstantially, or architect it to happen to where then all of a sudden now this huge artist that had a huge catalog, we now own the rights for the rest of their life. We get the life insurance claim.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, quite literally, gangster rap, the entire concept of it was created in Universal Music Group's boardroom with CIA, FBI,
to fill the private prisons,
probably Mossad. And they said, we need to get inner city youth, black kids, to fucking act the fool so that we can put them in private prisons, because we live in a private prison system, which is why we have the most incarcerated people ever, which is why we have the most corrupt legal system ever.
Yeah, there's more prisons in Texas than there is all of Europe.
Literally. So, and Bays, you can look this up. This is real, man. And there was like a whistleblower who was like from those meetings and was like, listen, like, this was completely manufactured to, like, in part for the tobacco industry, to push blunts. Yeah, but because I come from that world, bro. Like, I literally, like, got into the cannabis industry working for Raw Rolling Papers. So if there's a thing or two that I know about, it's what people roll weed with.
Rappers like weed, yeah.
and yeah,
it's also tuned to a lower frequency, which affects our bodies in a way that we don't really comprehend over time, absorbing and consuming the lower frequencies on the sound spectrum. Not even the fact that it's like glorifying crimes and hurting women and drugs and all that stuff. The actual music itself, its frequency is lower and it affects our minds differently. I think it causes static within our nervous system, which then would translate into behavioral choice issues. You know what I'm saying?
Which then brings me to Suno, because now, you know, if you guys don't know what Suno is, that's the AI that you can use to make music for you, but it's all completely middle of the road BS music. It's, for somebody like me, unlistenable. I mean, I can't even listen to human made music that's in 4/4 pop. Like, I can't do it. Like, that's why I listen to the Grateful Dead. That's why I listen to, like, you know, like Primus and bands that are doing different time signatures and doing different kooky things. That's why I really love the band Tool, you know, or Led Zeppelin. Like, they were doing off the wall stuff that was not in 4/4, not just like the same 4-chord structure. They were doing all this different stuff. And now comes Suno, and you look at Spotify, who the owner of that company has invested nearly $1 billion into Helsing AI drones for Israel. Right?
Shopify?
No, Spotify. Yeah. And Spotify also is inundated with so much AI slop music. Now, I don't think that is a coincidence. I think that the amount of AI music that we are seeing is it's all here to flood out all of the human stuff. We're seeing it on social media. The amount of AI slop that's on social media is drowning out the real voices, which is us. Right. And the same thing's going to happen with music. But I think my theory is that we are going to collectively get so sick of it so fast that in fact it's going to amplify our voices.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because
I think
people are going to seek human voices, which is why I'm Kevin as a human.
Yeah, human music will be more valuable. I think eventually we'll get to a point where we're going to force the companies to label it. Obviously, if they don't, but that's one of the things I think that I resonate a lot with what you were saying about pushing out all of the humans from creating. Is I think that's one aspect in our human experience that we can channel divine energy from is when we are in a state called creative flow, like when we're in a flow state of whatever our passion is. You know what I'm saying? You're able to like almost pull information from ulterior dimensions to be able to come up with these ideas. Does that make sense? You guys create things, so you know what I'm talking about. But I think that's one of the things that is energetically under attack in this realm that we live in, is our creative essence. Because I feel like that's when we feel, I mean, really the most human, really, it's like when we're creating things, whether it's we're creating.
And that's also when people get inspired and are able to inspire others.
Right. And I don't know. I just think that, like, going back to just to touch on back when I was getting nervous that my name was being searched in Israel or whatever, I feel like that's when it really, in my life too, I feel like it just got to the point where I just have to say what's the truth. And because truth is a feeling, you can feel the truth. People can lie with every word that comes out of their mouth, but when your little kid took a cookie and you know that he took that cookie and he comes up to you and you ask him if he took it, you already can know just based off of his energy that he's lying, So, like, I have a question for both of you, because you guys, Bayes has been doing this for quite a long time. Kevin is a well of information, So, how do you decipher? Like, for me specifically, I do what I do and I say what I say because I'm trying to not only leave a digital track record for my children to watch when they're old enough to comprehend, to maybe have a better grasp of who their dad was. But at the same time, do you feel like there is a breaking that's happening to where the opposite sides of each political spectrum are now entering an arena where we're more likely to hear each other's voices, versus when in like COVID, it was like, oh, you're unvaccinated, I hate your guts, you're not even welcome to Thanksgiving. Do you know what I'm saying?
I would love to answer this one first. I think right now we're seeing political homelessness at an all-time high, meaning people who feel that their parties have left them, right or left, right? The left left me a long time ago. So I left them and went to libertarianism because that was the closest thing aligned to who I am. And I don't even 100% go libertarian, but they're closer than the left or the right for me now, right? I'd be probably a progressive libertarian, if anything, because I'm still progressive, even though I'm from the left. I think the right has very clearly been left by their party. It's unrecognizable, right? And so right now, so many people are so politically homeless that they have no choice but to break the left-right barrier, right? Because it's it's like it's like intellectually lazy to do like what Nick Fuentes is doing and saying like, oh, the right sucks now, so everybody's gotta vote Democrat. That is so intellectually lazy, and it only feeds into the dual party dynamics, which is complete and utter BS. So I think right now, especially as we get through the midterms and the primaries and everything like that, I think a grand awakening is happening where people are realizing that the left-right dynamic is two wings of the same bird. They all have the same corporate donors. If they want to get mad about Peter Thiel or Elon Musk funding Trump, and then they look and go back 4 years and they saw they did the same thing with Biden. And then they did the same thing with Trump, and then they did the same thing with Obama, right? They start to realize that this is all just a shell game, right? And so now what's going to happen is, I think I've been talking about third-party politics now for the better part of 10 years, and I think that right now, if there ever was a chance for third-party politics to actually happen, an actual charismatic, thoughtful people or group of people that come together and start speaking to Americans as Americans from America and only care about American issues, and they are anti-APAC, I think that there's no greater time in history for third party to actually take hold.
Did you see the picture of Tucker and Joe Kent and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey?
I didn't, but I will say this. Like I said, we are in this time, and there's no better time than right now to have a strong third-party candidate, a strong third party. Because if this doesn't break the illusion of our two-party system, then nothing will.
Yeah.
This is a make or break time in our politics. Take a moment every day, every week, whatever, and actually think about what matters to you. Because if you do not do that, then the ideological subversion that Yuri Bezmenov has been telling us about, or told us about 45 years ago, it's here, it's happening. The ideological war that Donald Trump brought into our politics, right? I'm not saying him directly, but his style of politics changed politics to the point where now it is identity driven, and now the identities are broken. So if there is no better time than right now for some party to come together and stand up and say, we actually represent you, the people. We are against AIPAC and we are for America. And I swear to you, if somebody does that, and somebody plays into the middle part of the Venn diagram, which is all the things that left and right all people want: sovereignty, prosperity, the ability to lead the lives, just all the American values that we were told that we were living under our whole lives. If somebody does that, I think we can see a titanic shift in it. And if that party gets burnied like the DNC did in 2016, then it breaks the illusion of the two-party system, and we need to start from scratch. That's my hope.
I hope Tucker runs, if I'm being honest. I
don't need another celebrity to run, and he doesn't need to run.
Yeah, I just think
we got here by electing celebrities. We did that with Ronald Reagan. We did that with Trump. And what did that get us? Other than two of the worst periods in American history that will take decades to untangle. Jimmy, what do you think?
First off, when it comes to the awakening that we're talking about, the concerns that I have is, if you look at the last presidential election, each side had over 70 million votes. When you really start breaking down the analytics, I don't know if the awakening has spread out as far as people think, and as far as even I thought until more recently.
That's actually not just your figure's off, by the way. There was like about 50 million people who voted in the last election, if I remember correctly.
No. I think that it was probably 150.
It was a very low voter turnout the last time.
No, it's been going up. It's been going up over time. It wasn't a low turnout. It was because there's a spike in 2020 because of the mail-in ballots, but the trajectory has been going up gradually, election by election. Yeah, no, I'm pretty spot on. Trump got 77 million votes. Kamala got 75 million. So yeah, what is that? 100?
Yeah,
whatever it is, 152, 153 million votes, and then there was 3 million for other candidates. So it's even more than that. So. Okay. You guys have to realize, when you really start looking at the demographics and who's actually voting, because this isn't even all the adults that are voting. The majority of people that are voting are usually over 40 years old. Now, it's easy for us to believe that there's this like giant awakening, especially with the way that the algorithm works, because we end up in an echo chamber. Now, mind you, it's not a small echo chamber. No. It's still a much larger pool and a much larger group than it probably ever has been. But there are still a lot of people that think that we're all just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. When you look at how many people still support Trump, and I was kind of on the fence about it.
Many.
Not that
many.
On the national scale, there are a lot of people that are really mad at him and disappointed with him. But at the end of the day, they're going to swallow it at election season because they're still afraid of the Democrats. And I'll tell you part of the reason why right now, where I kind of got blackpilled with the idea that of this great awakening, it was the other day when Fauci was testifying. Oh, yeah. And I saw how much support. When I saw how much support Fauci was getting and is getting right now as we speak by the people on the left, I'm like, oh shit, they're still asleep.
Yeah.
It feels like a Manchurian. It was like Manchurian Candidate, like activation, but it was really
go on
weird.
Social media, Kevin, you go on social media,
I see.
And all the Occupy Democrats, all these Facebook groups, they're all still promoting pro-Fauci propaganda. And you look in the comments, and there are a lot of real people that believe that this guy is a hero.
And all these groups, and all these people, not all these people, but most of these groups, most of these people, they're all funded owned, constructed by X, Y, and Z. Like
no, look,
yeah,
I know that, but
just
okay,
just
so
like TPUSA has always just been a mouthpiece to get directly to the conservative youth. That's all it is. That's all this is. Like,
I know
all of these advocacy groups, all of it, and this is coming from somebody who used to work with advocacy groups.
But Kevin, I live in New York. I live in New York. Now, where I live on Long Island, it is much more conservative. So, like, Long Island, for the most part, is Republican. And then the city is very, very blue. And now, under the Electoral College, it always goes blue. It always goes Democrats. But if you were to split it up, like if Long Island were to have its own little electorate score, Republicans would be getting electoral votes from Long Island in most elections, hands down. But I can tell you right now from experience, from being out in the world day to day, going to church, the majority of people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, they're still believing in Trump. They know that he's lying about certain things. A lot of people believe that the Epstein files are kind of exaggerated. People have questions about Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk, but they don't have enough information because they're not spending time watching everything to like really know what's going on. Or a lot of them, you know, there's a lot of hate against Candace. So like casual viewers or people that have never really watched her just see like the slander on the internet. So they're not really taking her as a credible source. But there are a lot of people that are still asleep and still think that people like us are just crazy conspiracy theorists. And like that's the sad reality that, you know, I've been dealing with recently, especially more so when I saw the support for Fauci online. And then not only that, but people that I know that are Democrats or more liberal, when we talk about everything that's going wrong in the country, and then they say things like, well, you see, we told you that it should have been Kamala. None of this would have happened. And I'm just like, oh, literally, my God, all like, of it. You don't get it. I'm like, you just don't get it. Like, you know what I mean? But that's what it is. That's what it is. And if it just sucks. It just sucks. People don't have their priorities. They don't realize who Epstein was, what he represents, and all the shady, dark shit that was going on behind the scenes. How connected he
was to all the
they don't understand, like they don't get it, they don't know, they don't want to know. And when these people that do these polls and they do these analytics, when they when they hear conversations about us, like, oh, do you ever get scared thinking that they might off you for saying this and that? Dude, we are not. Like, we're making a difference. Don't get me wrong. People are waking up. Like, it is on their radar where they're like, okay, we gotta manage this. But it's not worth offing anybody at this point. Like, not like on our level. Because we are not moving the needle in a way that's going to really change things yet.
Yeah, right.
That's just the reality.
Because 40, 50 years of ideological subversion has worked. This is
100%. But now listen, as the boomers age, exactly. But listen, as the boomers age out, you're going to have a new generation that's going to be influenced by us.
Right.
Now what the plan is and what they're doing is they're getting rid of books. Anthropic is buying up all these books, loading them into the databases. Google is not a search engine anymore. It is just another AI chatbot. Right. And they want everybody to use AI to get their information, and they want to be able to manipulate that information and curate it so that people are going to be dependent on AI, and they're going to get the information that's going to indoctrinate them. That, like, so people are going to think like, okay, well, you know, I know they're lying to me in school. I'm going to do my own research. And I already see it. Because I do all my research with AI. And I tell you, these AI chatbots, like I use ChatGPT, it is not the same ChatGPT now that it was a year ago.
And it's absolute insanity. And we just need to remember that this country has actually always been predominantly moderate. This country has actually always been until, and I say this, Trump brought in the ideological sense to politics. Prior to this, we were just all pretty moderate, and we maybe leaned a little more one way or the other, but we were all kind of in the center because we all wanted largely the same things. We just had a difference of opinion of how we get from here to there. right? That's all it is. That's all politics ever was just literally left and right. All it came down to was how we managed our money.
Right.
That's literally the only difference that there was. And now it's become all of these values, these fucking fuck your values, bro. I'm sorry, bro. I had to say it. But F your values, dude. Straight up and down. Because it's BS. Because we all know at the end of the day, all Americans and all humans, they want a roof over their head. They want opportunity. They want sovereignty. They want to be able to have children or not have children if they don't want to. They want to practice the religions that they want to practice or not practice religion if they don't want to. And nobody can tell you otherwise. And outside of that, everything else was, how do we use the money?
Right.
Like we've, again, have overcomplicated things. We've overcomplicated things.
I wouldn't put that all on Trump though. A lot of that shit started during Obama. A lot of that shit started during Obama's presidency. That was when I started noticing
between the races, black and white.
Yeah, I think that and just ideologies. It was the combination of like the Black Lives Matter stuff that was going on and the emphasis that was being put on. Like I'll never forget.
That didn't start until Trump's administration. Black Lives Matter did not exist until George Floyd.
No, it was. I don't know.
2020.
I don't know if that's true.
That is true. There was
Are you sure about that?
There was no Black Lives Matter until then.
Well, I mean, the organization Black Lives Matter was it was founded in 2013. The Ferguson protest was Black Lives Matter. When Trayvon Martin got
well, maybe they didn't get their Soros funding until 2020.
No, right off the bat, 2013. 2013, it started after Trayvon Martin. And then Ferguson, wasn't that? Yeah, Ferguson, that was Michael Brown. And that was the one that I was going to talk about. Mike Brown, when that tragedy took place, you don't remember Mike Brown? That was the big one.
I mean, dude, there were so many of them there, bro. Like,
yeah, dude, I don't know why people thought that Black Lives Matter started with Trump. No, that was during the second Obama administration.
Oh, listen, like I'm not saying identity politics didn't exist.
Trayvon Martin was the kid that got killed by George Zimmerman. And then a year later, there was Mike Brown who got shot by police. He like went in. I think he went to take a couple cigars, whatever the story was. He was a big guy. Yeah. Something happened, and he ended up getting killed by police. But the same week that Mike Brown got killed by police, there was another kid named Dylan Taylor. I think that was actually in Utah also. It was the same week. And he was a white kid who was outside of a 7-Eleven. He had his headphones on. Cops came. He got up. He started walking away. The cop was like telling him to stop or whatever, allegedly. And he allegedly didn't hear because of the headphones. He turns around. The cop pulls out a gun, shoots him, kills him.
Yeah, but what are you talking about?
Nobody ever heard. No. Nobody ever heard of Dylan Taylor. But advocacy groups, it all ties together.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is in our politics.
But my point is, these events and the way that they got politicized had a lot to do with what led to Trump getting elected. The racial divide during the Obama administration, and then all the controversy with gay and trans rights and the whole they're gonna the bathrooms, like all that shit was Obama. And then all this division that was getting stirred during the Obama administration ended up leading to people rallying behind Trump.
Sure, but like he was the powder keg that created identity politics. Now, identity politics had always existed, but people didn't identify themselves as their political party until Trump.
No, I don't. I totally disagree. I think that it was because when Obama came on.
We were all centrists, bro. Like that's like okay. So the true history of it is that America was all centrist leading up until the advent of cable television, and when cable television happened, then came CNN and Fox News, and that was the first time in American history that we had a news organization specific to a certain political ideology. So yes, that is actually where it started. But it wasn't until Trump came into office, now sure, there might be an argument that things happened under Obama that emboldened people to get to that point, but it wasn't until Trump came in and started with his rhetoric, his left versus right rhetoric, which Obama did not do. Obama, and I'm not here to be some big defender of Obama, because I disagreed with Obama on a lot of things, right? But Obama did sit there and in his entire presidency and reached out to the right and said, let's work together. Right? He did that. It wasn't until Trump came in and started talking his rhetoric where the left was the enemy and you're this and we're MAGA and we're not even the right. We're this new thing and da 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 da. And that is what brought in societally where people started dividing themselves amongst what political party they identified with. Now, sure, during the Obama years, the left were proudly the left, right? But typically it was because of progressive issues, and they were happy about a president being down for progressive issues like gay marriage and gay rights and trans rights and all of those sorts of things, which I don't think is a bad thing. Right. But it wasn't until Trump came in and just started being like, nah, like, if you're not one of us, you're fucking gay. Like, that's like how he treated it. And that permeated into the culture. And then the right, the MAGA right, they started doing well, this is what we are and da da da. And so then the left responded by being like, okay, then this is what the fuck we are. Right. And then it became this left-right battle. Prior to that, prior to let's say 15 years ago, most Americans were centrist. They were moderate. And then they either they leaned a little left or they leaned a little right. But generally speaking, and as I was talking about this before you came back in, all of left-right politics was about how we spent money. It wasn't this grand, this is what our values is. We like to sit and go back in history and rewrite history about all these grand values, but it wasn't about values. It was always about how money was spent.
That's why Bill Clinton said it's the economy, stupid. That it wasn't all about money, but it was always the biggest issue. But I don't think that this whole identity politics thing, it started before Trump. It started before Trump. Once Obama got in there, and you had a black president for the first time, and then he started pushing more gay rights.
Gave a shit about having a black president,
huh?
Nobody gave a shit about having a black
What are you talking about? Of course they did.
Then why did they vote for him overwhelmingly twice? Or did Obama steal the elections? Is everything? No,
you're totally off. You're misinterpreting my point. I'm not saying that it was in like a derogatory way. Like it was progress. Like people, like the vast majority of people were happy that Obama won, not just because he was black, but he was a great speaker. He promised change. He was the whole package. He was the whole package. The only two elections I ever voted in.
Deal, right?
It was a very big deal. You had you had rappers making songs. My president's black. You know what I mean? Like it was. Yeah. It was like a cultural phenomenon.
What happened
like
before
Obama
that?
Was like a cultural.
What happened
phenomenon.
Before that? We had 9/11 and a president that fucking sent all of our kids, all the people our age, to go die in the Middle East for 20 years. Like, and so, yeah, of course, people were very receptive of Obama. A lot of former Republicans were very receptive of Obama. That's why he overwhelmingly won. Now, I'm not saying that identity politics didn't exist before. I actually am saying that identity, the roots of identity politics date back to the 80s and the advent of cable television.
No, but you're what I'm saying Trump is too much credit. Like you're saying that Trump's rhetoric is like what made it like explode, and I just think it's wrong. I think that it was the money that got pumped into these NGOs and all these different organizations that were promoting it and pushing this indoctrination. Trump, if anything, Trump did a good job of calling it out in the beginning.
I'll say it this. Let me explain it more succinctly. Is where I lay the blame on Trump is how he ran his first campaign, right? Now, how he ran his first campaign was smart, and that's why he won, right? He used culture in a way that nobody had ever done before. It was smart. I'm not going to say it was dumb. It was smart. The way that he ran that campaign radically changed politics forever. And the byproduct of that was this line in the sand. I'm on the left, you're on the right. F you, F this. Right?
Yeah, but
That
leaving out a really big factor in the equation.
That did not exist
but you can't talk about that and the way Trump ran the campaign and and his rhetoric and leave out the fact that the Obama administration was weaponizing the DOJ and the intelligence agencies to spy on them and to plant evidence and to make up stories like the whole Russian, the Steele dossier, the Russian hoax, like.
Yeah, you know, that all did it to Bernie.
That all came from the Obama administration,
dude. Like, I'm not saying. Listen, when I criticize one political party, that doesn't mean, and this is part of the problem. And I'm not saying that this is what you're doing, but this is part of the problem. Part of the problem in the world is that a criticism of one means a devotion to the other. I criticize both. Right?
I know. I wasn't.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying
you were having a devotion.
A lot of people. That's how they think.
Everybody seems to make Trump the center of a lot of these issues. They give him too much credit because the spotlight has always been on him. The main reason why Trump even won in 2016 was because the media just blasted him out.
Was there a time,
good coverage, bad coverage? It was just all Trump.
Prior to 2016,
on the media. And they did it on purpose because they thought that Hillary was going to win. They had the stories like the grab him by the pussy, different racial issues with his father or whatever with the buildings that were owned. They had these stories in the back pocket that once it got down to election time that they were going to break the news and that, you know, Trump's his approval rating was going to go way down. Hillary was going to swoop in and get the win. But
yeah,
Trump
that's why they screwed
such a good job. Trump did such a good job in those debates. Not all three of them. One of them was kind of iffy, but two of the debates, he totally crushed her. And then that speech that he gave at the Al Smith dinner, forget about it. When he goes in, when he gets on stage and Hillary's right there and everybody's all the mainstream media and he's like talking about how like they all loved him when, you know, before he got into politics, when he was just cutting checks. And now he's like, I look around the room, they don't love me too much anymore. And then when he said how he bumped into Hillary and Hillary said, pardon me, you know, because he'd been saying lock her up. They've been doing lock her up.
Yeah.
It was fucking masterclass. And
it was great.
Trump, if you watch when Trump won that election, when he came out to the stage after Hillary conceded, Trump looked shocked. He did not look like he was expecting to win that night. He might have been talking a big game the whole time.
No, he did not expect it. But
after that, one more thing. After that, as soon as Trump won, the Obama administration went scorched earth on him. They went scorched earth.
Sure. Listen, I am not defending the DNC. They absolutely ruined Bernie twice, who was the most popular candidate in our lifetime, hands down.
Yeah, by far.
By far.
Well, no, not most popular candidate overall, but he was way more popular than Hillary. In 2016.
No, I have to look at the numbers. Pretty sure he was he didn't get to presidential votes, but in like primaries and all that stuff, overwhelming turnout, one of the most popular candidates in history at the levels that he had.
I don't know if he was more. I don't know if he was more popular than Obama. I mean, once Obama did his second term, he couldn't run again. Then yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
when Obama was,
one of the most popular candidates ever, grassroots, total great campaign. The DNC absolutely screwed him. What I'm saying, though, is that, again, I think a lot of what you're talking about is the lead up to what eventually came from the Trump campaign, right? And Trump's first term. And the byproduct of that became this notion that other Americans are your enemies because of how they wanted to vote or who they voted for. And that did not exist. That did not exist, bro. I didn't know a single person.
That's not identity politics. That like now, that's like where we're at now.
That's identity politics. That is your identity being wrapped up in the political party that you ascribe your identity to. That is saying that you're on the right. You voted for Trump. You're my enemy. Nobody on the left gave a crap that you voted for so-and-so. And they certainly weren't like, I'm not going to talk to my family members anymore because they voted for somebody on the right. That didn't really exist. Sure, it existed in some novel, smaller more outlandish.
Yeah, but what you're
But
describing now
every day.
is not just identity politics. What you're describing now is like the escalation of the indoctrination, because all this comes back down to the mass surveillance that we're facing today. Because that rhetoric, like what you're talking about, people thinking that's enemies, that is intelligence. These intelligence agencies and these think tanks turning people against each other, so that they will be more accepting of this technology and the term like, oh, those are Nazis, those are terrorists. And that just starts going down a totally different rabbit hole of all like really dark shit.
But what we call that definitionally is identity politics, right? Or another way to put it would be ideological subversion, meaning that it was set up as a means of subversion. It was that the identity part of the political spectrum, or how people identified with politics, that is a long game. That's what Yuri Bezmenov talked about in the 70s, and so or in the early 80s. So that's what I mean when I say identity politics. I'm talking about that, and definitionally, it all falls under identity politics, and that is the great to me. Where I stand is that at no point in time had there ever been a division among Americans as it has been since 2016. That's not saying that the division didn't exist before it. It did, but it did not even come close, not even shine a light onto where it is now. It's not, or more better say where it was up to a year ago, because right now what's happening is a lot of people who were very deep MAGA, voted for Trump 3 times, are saying he's done one of 3 things that is a bridge too far for me to support him anymore, whether it be Iran or whether it be Israel. Those are like the 2 main ones, right? Or for a much smaller amount, it's affordability. You said no wars, and affordability. Everything's more expensive. I can't live like this, right? It's worse under you than it was under Biden, and that's the sentiment that those people are feeling. What I'm saying though is that it existed, but it ramped up significantly 2016 and past, and so I lay that at Trump's feet, because he ran the campaign that he did, and he ran his first campaign how he did. I mean, he started a cult, or whether you want to say it was Steve Bannon and General what's his face, that they started the QAnon cult, but he started a cult around his political ideology. We've never seen that before in American politics. Never has that ever existed. So to not say that Trump has not massively changed politics forever, and the mechanism of that is identity politics, I think is very short-sighted.
I never said that he didn't change politics, and I wasn't trying to stick up for Trump either. I'm just trying to call balls and strikes and call it how I see it.
That's how I see it anyway. I could be wrong about that, but from my perception of it as I'd watched it happen and unfold, and
I think the politicians being in a cult of consuming children and trafficking kids have been going around for a long time. Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were homies. Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton were homies. I think the cult aspect between all of that, but I agree with where.
But we weren't in the cult.
For me,
weren't in those cults.
where things changed politically, where it became this side versus that side, is when we watched the Trump campaign in 2016, and it became, now these political leaders are saying things to each other and doing things to each other that candidates didn't necessarily do, right? Obviously in front of our face, where they're like calling each other names and
and trying
to like imprison them.
The warfare.
I think that in itself was what created the hostility between, is because the back and forth, obviously I think now we're seeing potentially the same specific weaponized lawfare in a different matter from the Trump administration, know.
I also think the one other component that I haven't touched on that I think radically changed everything, and don't mind me, I'm just sweating bullets over here, is every politician having an X account. We've never seen it. We've never had direct communication like that
with every one of them,
from
right?
politicians to us. And now you can't be a politician without having a social media presence. Social media has radically changed that game. Now, social media has existed at least since the Obama administration, and in even the very tail end of the Bush administration. But the way that it shapes policy, for good or for bad, right? I mean, the psyops that we see every day from politicians, but then also it gives, somebody like Thomas Massey a real voice, and that's really cool. That's really cool to see that there are people out there that are using it for good. But that's another manipulation tactic that's used primarily for all of the people that are in one camp or another in some political cult, because that's the only way I could describe it is now I would even go so far as saying we now live in the age of political cults.
I think
not
they're
just political
mafias,
ideology.
actually. I think they're more like organized political mafias.
What in that like the Italian mob and the Jewish mafia were like against each other, but really working in the back together. Yeah. Probably.
But I think that's potentially what we're seeing. It's just a different way to categorize it between the Trump mafia and the Biden mafia and the Bush mafia and the Clinton mafia. Because really, if you get to that stature of your repertoires, you're a high ranking official in the government, you have a mass amounts of wealth, you have all of these minions to do all of your bidding and whatever it may be. It's really just these huge organizations combating against each other, That's it. Sure, you could call it a cult. I mean, they probably are sacrificing kids, but
yeah.
It's all fake and gay, bro.
Everything, bro. Again,
everything.
I'm not even convinced that any of this is real, dude. Like,
oh, I was gonna say this earlier. Have you guys heard about the DMT laser experiment?
Yes.
No.
Oh, okay. Because you said something about coding and it all being like information and stuff.
Yeah.
So, dimethyltryptamine is the most profound, most potent psychedelic known to man. It's created inside of our pineal gland as well as in lots of our other cells inside of our body, but ingested recreationally, it'll transport.
It's the only tryptamine that our body naturally produces.
Wait, hold on. Let him talk.
It will transport you to a whole nother dimension, right? And the thing about psychedelic medicine most of the time is that the characteristics of the experience in a psychedelic experience are similar, but everyone's experience is subjective to their own self. Like, we could all eat a mass amounts of mushrooms and we're not going to really see the same things, experience the same things, but what we are experiencing is in a similar aspect to whatever other people are saying. That's like visuals or profound inner knowledge or whatever it may be. The dimethyltryptamine is very different in the aspect that it takes you to other realms where you meet your higher self or other entities which are intelligent and that can have communication with you telepathically. Telepathically or through sounds and shapes. It's very eccentric. It's a really wild experience. But they found that I'm trying to blank on his name. They found that they could intravenously inject dimethyltryptamine through an IV and keep someone underneath this dimethyltryptamine experience for a long period of time recreationally outside of ayahuasca is like a 6 to 8 hour experience where just DMT itself is like a very quick 15-minute travel to a complete different reality and back.
But with a strong MAOI.
Yeah. And so if you take a
pharmahuasca, we used to call it.
If you take there's a guy that's doing this and he's like shown up tons and tons of people. Like I said, I'm sorry I'm drawing a blank on his name.
I can't remember it either.
But he with a fractal laser, it's like a thick laser like you would use it to scan a barcode, and you place it on the wall while you're under the influence of dimethyltryptamine, and you will literally see code. And you can move the laser and you will see the code moving as if it was just like similar to the Matrix 1s and 0s. And the thing that makes it so profound is that every single person who does this sees the same thing, where that's not typical for psychedelic experiences where, and the code is even different whether you put it over a cup or if you put the laser over biological matter. The structure of the code and the characters, it looks like ancient hieroglyphs, Egyptian hieroglyphs.
I have a theory on that, by the way.
Is that the code though? You know what I'm saying? That just like is running all of the,
maybe, but I think it's the Indinkra code.
Yeah,
if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, the Indink and the Akashic records and just all of it.
I think it's something a little bit more similar to that. But if you're into simulation theory, what do you think, Jimmy? You think we live in a simulation, or you think base reality is real?
I mean, it depends what you consider a simulation to be. Because think about it. If there is a God, I know you don't believe, but I do. Then if there's a God, there's a creator, then in a sense, everything is a simulation.
It's not even so much that I don't believe in God. It's more that I don't think it matters. So why like for me, it doesn't make a lick of difference about anything. So why give it any attention at all? Right. Some people, my main gripe with the concept of God is that God is the name for the things that we can't understand. So we put faith, and that's my fundamental problem with it, is the faith part. Faith in something that we name the something that we can't understand.
Correct. I believe that, but what specifically with faith is I also believe in God, but I don't have faith in God. I believe in God. It's because it's something that I don't have to be convinced of. I'm aware that it's real and true. And I guess for me specifically, what in the aspect of creating a simulation, what Jimmy had said is that if God did create this similar to like an anthill or Sim City, then this technically it would be a simulation because he's trying to simulate an experience for or whatever. And me personally, I won't even say that my belief of God is a he. I don't think that God looks like Zeus. I think that God is the culmination of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine energy. I think that's that's where God resides. But
probably Alanis Morissette, right? Like,
but if we could create a GTA, like, have you ever seen the movie Fall Guy with Ryan Reynolds, where he's like he's like an NPC and realizes that he's an NPC in a computer game? But if we could create a simulation like GTA, I mean, if it gets to the point where AI is so advanced that every single character rendered inside of these video games has its own sort of intelligence, who's to say that at one point those GTA characters won't become intelligent enough to question whether they're in a simulation or controlled by someone else, which is actually just me sitting there playing the PlayStation 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this lends so heavily to Donald Hoffman's work. Highly, highly, highly suggest you guys check out some Donald Hoffman, and he talks about this, and he talks about it through the lens of evolutionary game theory and all of the work that he's done in that field over decades. But then it all comes down to, like, everything is a choice, right? Everything is how you choose to interact with it. I choose to not interact with the concept of God because it doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah.
For other people, their belief in God is what gives them life, and neither of us are wrong, right? That's the beauty of sovereignty and being an American, is that we all have a choice of how we want to interact with the world, right? And that's a beautiful thing, and that is what I care more about than anything. I care about that way more than I care about what sky daddy you believe in or not believe in, and how you believe in it, and to what degree, and how that impacts your life. I could really give a shit less. Like, I'm happy for you, though. If you're happy, I'm happy for you. Like, I've totally always lived that way. And luckily I found that most Christians want to always convert me. But once I kind of, let them understand completely that, like, you're never going to, and I respect your religion, then, I'm usually pretty cool and we can get on. But at the end of the day, we can all look at the same thing and come to a different conclusion.
That, right? Jesus is the biggest conspiracy.
Maybe.
Oh, I was just
Maybe he is. You know, I mean,
I do think so. I do actually think that he's the biggest conspiracy, because I think that through the Council of Nicaea and all of the different books that were selected to be given to the masses versus all of the text that was available, the fact that his name was actually Yeshua, not Jesus, and that the letter J wasn't created until a long time afterwards. I think that. And then the fact that with the information we were given about this person is that this person only spoke to the masses in parables, and that he didn't actually say everything that was true. Like there, it goes for me. I think that God has incarnated on planet Earth in many forms. Jesus was just so happened to be one of those forms to influence the culture of what period of time he was in. Same with Buddha, potentially Krishna, other spiritual avatars that came here for whatever spiritual purpose that they had. I think that, I mean, he's like the most researched individual of all time. And you know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's undeniable that this individual lived. I just find it compelling that we are now in a time frame where the person Jesus is the most under attack, and the people who killed Jesus are the ones bombing countries in the Middle East and sacrificing children to Baal. You know, the same ideological worship that Jesus went into the temple and threw all of the tables around is happening in real time in front of us, and we're watching the destruction of spirituality amongst the humanity happen in real time, even more and more and more through porn, gambling, drugs, all violence, everything that could disconnect you from whatever concept God may be. All of the things that were once deemed sin are now just blatantly everywhere in front of all of humanity to consume, which we all know that the man's most desired pleasures are the ones that feel the best but are worst for us, which would be like obviously sex, greed, etc. Whereas I think that with me, everything that I learned going down into the Epstein files and Hillary Clinton and Pizzagate and Frazzle Drip and the Synagogue of Satan and the Seal of Solomon and the building of the Third Temple and Baal worship and Moloch and the Khazarian Mafia and all of these rabbit holes that I'm going down, and I'm watching and learning and seeing what I would identify as demonic energy in real time. The laws of the universe say that we're structured with the law of polarity, hot and cold, north and south, positive, negative, electron, neutron. They're two opposites of every side. So if in real time I'm watching real demonic shit happen, stuff that is just there, it's undeniable that it could be labeled evil. The only way that the universe is able to run off of the laws of polarity is that there has to be something of an equal and opposite spectrum on the other side. So if what I am labeling as demons or the evil or Satan or whatever label you want to call this dark energy, that it's undeniable that if we're able to see it with our eyes, that the other opposite side of the spectrum, which people would call God, has to exist. There has to be the light for the dark to even be there.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds very sound. That's a very sound theory, and hey, I hope you're right. For me, it comes down to things like, it's like I don't care so much about where things started. I care about what the result was.
See, even that is a conspiracy, bro, because if Adam and Eve were real, we all started off of incest. But even that in itself is a conspiracy.
Let me run down this train of thought for you, right? It's like whether COVID was created in Wuhan or naturally occurred, at the end of the day, like, I'll debate that, and that's fun. That's a fun little thought experiment. I actually don't really give a shit about that. What I care about was the loss of freedoms that we all had as a result of it, because that's what actually matters at the end of the day. So religion, same thing. I don't care if the origin of it is real or if it was made up or if it's been a story that's been stepped on through the centuries and has been bastardized so many goddamn times. I actually don't care about any of that. What I do care about is that for centuries, a ton of people died for no reason other than what they thought their religious belief was. Some of them for beliefs that no longer exist, like Calvinism and deism and like all these things that like no longer exist. They were all offshoots of the same Abrahamic religions. Right. And then all of the religions, all the Abrahamic religions are just different interpretations of the same fucking story. So at the end of the day, I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about is the unnecessary death that not only happened during the Crusades and the Bolsheviks and all that stuff that everybody wants to talk about, but it's like happening right now. Right now, what we're seeing, we are in this quagmire that we find ourselves in is all over religious BS from a bunch of people who believe that they were chosen by some sky daddy and that the rest of us mean nothing. We're all just cattle. And I just reject those notions altogether because to me, they're all just the same mechanism that results in unnecessary death over flimsy beliefs. Now if
Jesus was anti-establishment and anti-religion. He didn't come here necessarily to be worshipped. He didn't come here to start a religion or a movement. So like that's the only difference that I specifically have when it comes to this topic is that the individual that created all of the Abrahamic religions or was a key figure in the Abrahamic religions was I think set apart from what we are now watching as these people are calling themselves God's chosen people. I think that I think there's a reason why Jesus is burning in boiling excrement in the Talmud. I think there's a reason why the people that the Zionists and that group of religious Jews, the Talmudic Jews, are so against Jesus is because they believe that their God is superior than Jesus is, obviously, or they wouldn't have killed him.
And my whole thing is, why do humans have to die for somebody else's stupid beliefs? Or maybe I'm being harsh by calling them stupid beliefs. I'll just call them beliefs. There are humans that are dying today, yesterday, last year, last decade, last century for stuff that we cannot prove, that were just written in books by God knows who. And I understand how the irony of saying God knows who for me, right? I understand the irony of that. And that's where it comes down to me is like, that's like part of the basis of why I rejected religion very early on in my life, because I grew up as a Roman Catholic. Like
I grew up as a Mormon.
Yeah, well, then that's a whole other, you want to talk about a BS religion made by freaking a grifter.
Freemasons. Yeah. There's actually Joseph Smith was actually a Freemason. Joseph Smith was actually the very first presidential candidate to be assassinated too.
Yeah, and also people forget that the LDS was actually fighting the American government in the 1850s.
They were, yeah. They were also
people forget that. People forget that history, and they want to say like, "Oh, Arizona
Supreme Court actually just passed a ruling that church leaders don't have to report sexual abuse if the allegations are conversated in a confessional setting."
That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Well, we just live in it. We live in such like a backwards country that we started this country for religious freedom. And the separation of church and state, because we saw what happened when the church ran the countries in Europe, and we saw what happened, and we said no to that. And then we live in a country that now thinks it's a Christian nation, which it is not, by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a Christian nation. The numbers don't support that. Our founding fathers weren't even overwhelmingly Christian. Some of them were Calvinists and deists and these religions that no longer exist.
They're all like Freemasons.
They were all Freemasons, basically, but they were all under some other sort of religious sect. And so we're not a Christian nation, yet we have all this prime real estate, untaxed.
But I actually like the idea of America being a Christian country besides what we have now, when we're literally watching business become government. We're watching tech become government. We're watching all of these things that were once supposed to be kept out of government. Now our government is like turning into a business, if that makes 100%. Sense. More than it probably already was with donors and all of these other aspects. I'm like more or less talking about like Donald Trump, like actually running the country like he runs a business with advertising and people can invest in,
Does that make us a better country? Does being a Christian nation make us a better country? Are we a better country because we don't tax churches?
To be honest, I'll just have to say, I do think that this country would be better if it was a Christian country. I do believe that some of the best people I've ever actually met in my entire life, the nicest and the most kind and compassionate and generous people, are people who believe in Jesus, if I'm being honest. But
yeah, but to be a Christian nation would be to no longer be a sovereign nation.
That's true. You
are no longer sovereign in your choice of how you want to
practice, right?
Exactly. And so and this is America, a sovereign nation in which I can choose to live however I want to live, so long as I don't infringe upon the freedoms of others.
So we don't have, like, humans in the Middle East don't have the luxury of not being religious. They have to be Muslim.
In some places people absolutely fake religious faith so that they can be accepted by their society.
Right. And grifters are stoned.
That absolutely happens. Right. That absolutely happens. America is the only place, well, the first place that literally said, no, we're forming for religious freedom.
Right.
Right. That concept did not exist until 250 years ago. Right. That's part of it. Right.
The great American experiment.
It is the great American experiment, and the freedom of speech. So sovereignty, your freedom to choose how you want to live your life, your freedom to say what you need, what you can and want to say. That is American. Like that is the foundation of the American experience. And we keep forgetting that. We keep forgetting that. And this is why I always push back on anybody who tells me that we live in a Christian nation. We do not live in a Christian nation. We don't.
I mean,
and that should be celebrated. That should be celebrated.
What's coming to mind when you say that the freedom of religion, it almost seems as if America has lost their ability to have freedom of choice to choose a political party without consequences from either side. Obviously, if you're outspoken about what political party you are on, political side you are on, you are almost voluntarily asking or volunteering for people of a certain stature from the other side to, like you said, automatically put you in this hostile arena where you're their enemy now, just because you said you're this or you're that.
You now have the illusion of truth, or the illusion of choice, rather. There once was a time where we had over 130 different currencies in the United States. Did you know that?
I did not.
That was true. That was real, right? So we had many different types. Before we had centralized banking, like, we think that the world that we live in is how it's always been. It is not. It has not always been that way. We had the freedom to choose our currency. We do not have that in America. We had all sorts of freedoms that we do not have anymore.
Because they offered us safety, right?
Oh, that's
what happens, right? Is they offer us more safety, and then they just take our rights, and then when the safety is no longer needed, we just don't ever get those rights back.
Yeah. What do you think, Jimmy? You think we live in a Christian nation?
I think we should. I 100% think we should. I think that, I believe in religious tolerance, obviously. I believe that people should. I think how people pray is their own business, and that is what makes America great, is that, we're supposed to have that right, that it's okay for people to have different beliefs. There were a couple things that you said that I kind of disagreed with, but one of them that I thought was funny. What did you say? It was around I'm like drawing a blank. I'm sorry. It's like getting late. We've been at this for like 3 hours, so yeah. I'm like kind of.
I told you I was going to give you 45 minutes, and you got me till way past my bedtime.
Well, I knew it was going to be longer than 45 minutes, but I didn't know it was going to go this long.
I'm still dead, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm dead right now, but
listen, when you go back in history and you understand why Christianity was as influential as it was, and just how, like, you guys got to understand something. And it's real easy. Like, I grew up Catholic too. I grew up on George Carlin and had all those years where, I didn't really believe religion is bullshit, Sky Daddy this, all that. But when you actually take the time and do the work, going back into history, and understand that once upon a time, something happened. All right. Jesus was a real person. he did get crucified. And after he was crucified, there were a couple people days later that said that they saw him raised from the dead. Now, there are so many parts to that story that don't really get emphasized on, like the fact that it was a group of women that were the ones to spread the word, saying that they saw him first.
The three Marys.
And if you understand what that means to the credibility of the story at that time, because women did not get taken seriously. The fact that it was women that said we saw Jesus was not something that was adding to the credibility. Like, if anything, it was the opposite. And then you look at all the books that got put together and how the Bible was written. You're talking about over a dozen individuals that traveled in different directions, by foot, by horse, by boat, whatever. Some of them as far as 1,600 miles apart. And this is 2,000 years ago. 1,600 miles apart. And when you analyze their books the way that I have and cross-reference them all using AI, there is enough consistency in there to know that they are telling, like, they're telling the same story. But there is enough inconsistencies in there where it's not like they coordinated,
copied and pasted.
Yes. And when you understand that, and how many different individuals, and listen, people will die. People will not die for something they don't believe. All right. When Islam got started, and the spread of Islam was through military force. People were basically converted by military force. Christianity, in the beginning, they were persecuted everywhere they went. There were people that did not believe in Jesus, that were against Jesus, then after he died had some sort of experience where they were willing to lose their head before they denounced him. And that is documented in history. There are like we talk about all the anomalies with the, the Charlie Kirk case. There are so many more anomalies with the early days of Christianity after Jesus was crucified that it's really, really hard. And again, I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anybody else. I'm just saying that when I spent a lot of time going through this, and I did it objectively because I was not a believer either. But the more that I read and the more evidence that I saw that there was, and how many different individuals and how many people died over it, it's wild.
It's like I said before, we can see the same thing and come to two totally different conclusions. I have this question for you, though. I asked you, do you think we should be a Christian nation? And you said yes. What about Christianity do you think should we as a nation hang our hat on? And are you willing to give up sovereignty to have that? Because that's what
how does being a Christian nation give up sovereignty?
If we were a Christian nation, then we would lose religious freedom. That is loss of sovereignty.
Who says that?
I just
what makes you think that? But what is that rooted in?
Okay, let's define what a Christian nation is, right? I would liken it to probably being a Jewish nation.
When people say we're a Christian nation, nobody's saying that we shouldn't have Jews or Muslims or atheists or no, that's not what that means. It means that as a culture,
that's the highest influence.
It's rooted in Christian ethics, which we absolutely should have.
So
because if you look at everything going on.
I'm not being combative. I'm trying to understand.
Well, you are being combative. You have a very strong confirmation bias that's going the other way.
I'm asking you though,
this rejection of Christianity, and it's like a lot of it.
A rejection of church running my politics.
But you're like just making shit up. You're not like really like comprehending like what people mean. Like people like me say, like when I say that we should be a Christian nation, like what it should be.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
No.
I'm actually trying to understand.
Listen, America is America because of the Constitution. Fact. The Constitution does not change. Religious tolerance, a Christian nation with religious tolerance, meaning that you could pray however you want. You can organize your churches. Your churches are not going to be taxed. In other theocratic nations, they allow, like you have a Muslim nation, they'll allow Christians, but they would tax them. They would have to pay taxes if they didn't convert. You go to Israel, they have Christians, they have Muslims, but it's a Jewish state run by Jewish law. Now, if you have a Christian nation with our Constitution, the way that it was written, the way that it should be enforced, but is not, It would mean that as a nation that we have Christian ethics, Christian values, but that doesn't take away the religious tolerance aspect that comes with the First Amendment. You do that, then we're not even America. Then what are we? At that point, you don't even have a country.
When I hear you say Christian nation, I was understanding it as majority Christian is where I was interpreting the Christian nation.
Wait, did he just bail out on us?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, he's back.
I don't know what happened. You guys just
Yeah, we thought you just got pissed off at me and
no,
just fucking bailed.
the stream just crashed on me.
We said, "Oh my gosh, did Kevin get mad?"
Yeah, I'm
No,
like, did I
I'm
say
literally-
something that?
No. Listen, I'm trying to understand what a Christian nation looks like and how is that compatible with the Constitution, with everything like that. Because to me, where I stand, I think theology and politics need to be completely separated. That is an American value. I mean, we literally left Europe because of the church's stranglehold on the politics.
All right, let me sum it up.
I don't understand is
let me sum it up for you here. You look at other theocratic nations, right? You see how Islam is and how women have to live and that structure. We see how Israel is, how like Jews are like a completely different class citizens of Christians and Muslims. When you're a real Christian, I'm not talking about like the pagan merged ritualistic Catholics. I'm saying that like when you are a real Christian that just believes in Jesus and follows the scripture, all right? A lot of the other stuff, it just becomes noise. It kind of gets dumbed down. Like when you, like for me personally, like when I found Jesus and I found God, a lot of the other stuff didn't matter as much. It's like your relationship with God it means a lot more. And you want other people to have that relationship with God, of course. But when you start, I'm trying to figure out like the best way that I could explain this. All right. So for me, I'm a Christian, but I cherish the Constitution. I believe that when you're a consenting adult, as long as you're not harming anybody, you can do whatever the hell you want. You know, this same thing with gay rights. Now, as a Christian, you do believe that people that are gay, that they're living in sin. But if you're getting really strict with the scripture, then you could also say that, you know, people that are living with their partner, or even if it's a heterosexual relationship, that they're living in sin. So
it starts to unravel real fast.
And in the scripture, it says that you don't compare sins. It's not like one sin is better or worse than the other. The question is are your values aligned with God? Do you believe in Jesus? If you've made mistakes in the past, are you repenting? Like, you know, in Catholicism, it's all about like go to confession and everything is through the priest. Like the priest is like this middleman. You're going to pay your indulgences, you're going to confess, and you're going to get your way into heaven. But that's all bullshit. You know, like with the church that I go to, there is no confession. They're not passing around a fucking basket for you to put $1 in. There's no priest that's like we don't even have a priest. We have pastors that just teach the scripture. It's all about your relationship with God, your relationship with Jesus. And if you've made mistakes, that's for you to deal with God. So if you want to change, if you want to, you know, if you've sinned or whatever, it's all about repenting. And repenting isn't just changing what you do or not doing it again, but it's changing the way that you think. And that's why, like, if you haven't had that experience and you haven't like found God and that like hasn't clicked in your head, which Kevin, I really hope that one day it does. And Trevor, we haven't spoken enough for me to like really know your views and values on things. I know that there are a lot of people out there now, like the whole like manifesting, like you are like everybody's Jesus, everybody's a God, everybody's divine. Like that's like getting more popular. And I believe that there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah,
but
it's also the best shit I've ever heard in my life.
No, but there is some truth. There is some truth with it, and it does align more with Mary Magdalene's scripture, if I'm not mistaken. And one thing that people need to realize is the Catholic Church did not write any of the scripture, but they published it. So they had influence on what books were going to get put into the New Testament. I was always led to believe that they were writing, doing editing on the scripture. No, that wasn't the case. They were just able to leave certain books out that may have painted a more full picture and given different perspectives. They wanted to keep things canon. You guys watch Dragon Ball Z?
Oh yeah.
Not really.
Okay, well, in Dragon Ball Z, there's like the MAGA, there's like the seasons with all the story arcs, and then they would have movies in between, where the movies didn't necessarily fit the canon of the story that was told in the show.
Supplemental.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, when you look at the Book of Enoch and you look at different scriptures that like you'll find in like the Ethiopian Bible, that's not necessarily in the King James. It's like that includes the movies, so to speak. Kevin, you watch Dragon Ball Z, so you understand. You understand it better. Yeah. So there's more to.
They
the
never
actual
talk about
canon
Broly in
that
the show.
Exactly. Well,
King James did write a book on demonology too, though.
Yeah. But basically, once you, like, for me personally, I'm saying from my own experience, as a Christian, it's like I want everybody to believe in God. I know that I am a better person. A lot of the empathy, and I've always been an empathetic person.
Yeah.
But like I have a different level of understanding. I have a different level of inner peace. It's like when you look at everything going on in the Middle East and you see that it's because of their beliefs. Like, it has to be bullshit beliefs that are making people kill each other, making people want to harm children, want to harm women. Like, that's not something that would happen with a Christian, like a real Christian. We're not talking about Masons. We're not talking about people like at Turning Point USA that are tied to the military industrial complex that try to use Christianity.
Do you understand how the
manipulate
rhetoric
people.
sounds, though? Because that's no different than a Jew calling one type of Jew a real Jew and the other Jews are not real Jews, right? I this is where I kind of get like hung up on this, like,
well, that I remember when I paused before when I said that there was something that you said that stood out, but then it kind of slipped my mind. Yeah. You were talking about different religions and different beliefs, and you said, "Oh, but we could all be right?" And that's the beauty of it. It's like, no, you're wrong. At the end of the day, there's only one truth. Like you can have all these different people with all these different interpretations.
So your truth, what makes you so sure that the truth that you believe, your faith, and this I
don't know what the truth is. I know what I believe, and that is what's faith.
So what?
But
hold
on. Let me finish.
Compatible with American life.
But let me finish.
Yeah.
All these different religions, all these different beliefs, people that think that we were made by aliens and like somehow enhanced our DNA or whatever, enhanced evolution or whatever, all these different theories. But at the end of the day, only one of them is actually true. Like true. Only one of them is true. Maybe none of them at all. Maybe we're all. That's possible.
That's also a possibility.
That's possible.
So,
but hold on.
What
does that make the rest of them? But what does that make the rest of them?
To me, it makes all religion questionable. And
no, but what I'm saying is
that I want to hang my hat on.
But what I'm saying is, if one of them is true and the rest of them aren't, what does it make the rest of them?
False.
Well,
false.
Yeah, obviously false.
Yes.
But I was gonna say a conspiracy theory.
Maybe.
No, not maybe. That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. Whatever one.
That's predicated
if one
on
of the
notion
is
that
true.
one of them is true.
Under the notion that one of them is true. If one of them is true, then the rest is a conspiracy theory. If none of them are true, they're all conspiracy theories.
See, like
it's one or the other. But
this is the thing.
But you have to start. But if you're going to talk about the country and the nation and making the world a better place, instead of just trying to say which one's right, why don't you just start looking at what one's wrong? Like what's definitely not working, and why is it not working?
I don't know. But
any religion where the answer is like killing children and eradicating populations, like I would definitely pluck those out first.
Sure.
And most of the issues that we've seen, and people don't even realize this, like when the Catholic Church really took the wrong turn, it was after the bubonic plague. Because during the bubonic plague, what would happen? People would get sick. And then what would people want to do before they would die?
Pray.
But
or see a priest.
But pray with who? Exactly.
Right.
They would want to see a priest. So during the bubonic plague, all these priests were going around reading people their last rites, because the priests were the middlemen, like we were talking about before, between the people and getting into heaven. That's what they believed, because that's
what else they didn't have back then. They didn't have the encyclopedic understanding of everything in the world like we have now.
Yeah, but Kevin,
their view was very short and narrow.
Yeah, but you got to let me finish so you can understand the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
So during the bubonic plague, all these priests were going around reading people their last rites,
Mhm.
and then a lot of them got sick and died off. Like the vast majority of priests died. So what happens then when you have an institution that big and 80% of your workforce dies? You have to hire new people. And when you're hiring that many new people all at once, you're not always going to get the best candidates. You might get people that have different motivations that are going to try to infiltrate to take over, because it creates a power vacuum as well.
Mhm.
And that's when you start to get into the conspiracy theories with like the Jesuits and when they took over, and, you know, did somebody poison the well, and was that part of the plan all along? Like, you
But
know,
again-
then it gets kind of spooky.
But what I'm not hearing is how this nation can be a Christian nation and still hold all of the American ideals in the Constitution. I don't see a compatibility there, not just in what you're saying, but in every single person that's ever told me that this is a Christian nation who wants to argue that fact with me. Nobody has ever told me how that is compatible. A nation that was literally founded by the separation of church and state because of the problems that the church running governments has presented time and time again throughout history, but somehow it would work this time. I don't understand.
But why do you keep saying the church running things? Nobody's saying that a Christian nation means that the church is going to run things. No, the
What is a
government is
Christian
supposed
nation
to run things.
What is a Christian nation? I'm asking about the compatibility.
It's Christian
I
nation.
don't understand where how it becomes
It's Christian ethics.
Yeah.
It's more aligned. It has nothing to do with the laws. The Constitution is the rule of law. A Christian nation would be more influence in schools, if anything.
Where
Not making them pray like they're like in Catholic school, but just the ethics, the morals. Turn the other
Isn't
cheek,
that what we
not
already
spit
have?
on the other people. No,
Isn't that already what we have?
We have not had that in a long time.
I mean, at least when I grew up,
We not anymore.
That's what we have.
Not anymore at all. Now we have fucking trannies reading kindergartners books about being gay. But seriously, and listen, I'm not anti-gay. I'm not anti-trans. Like I said, as if you're a consenting adult, what you do in your home is your business.
If you're qualified to teach
you're allowed
teach children.
that because of the Constitution.
Yeah.
But I think that what kids are learning in school should be more aligned with Christian ethics. It's okay in America. It's okay to be gay, but no. Listen.
Right.
So you're okay with when they have like transgenders reading kids' books in kindergarten? You don't think that has some sort of influence on the kids?
I don't care what sexual orientation somebody has to read a child a book. Are you saying specifically gay positive books?
No, he's specifically talking about a dude that clearly looks like a dude but is dressed up like a girl reading books that promote homosexuality to kindergartners. Is that not confusing or inappropriate?
It can be
for the kindergartner?
It could be. Again, as I stated earlier, the onus is always on the parents. Always. As you two are very involved parents, I think you would agree with me that at the very end of the day, it always comes down to you and what you allow your children to see or know or whatever. What I'm saying though is that
no, but that's not true when you have kids that are being forced to go to public schools and they're there 6 hours a day.
That's what I'm saying though, is that they're at this time, there is no better time in history to homeschool children. There are very great, like Classical Learner, who I met through Ian. I mean, that man builds programs for people to homeschool their children. They like, and if you have every right to homeschool your children.
We talk all the time about how the economy is crashing. People have to work. Not everybody can afford it.
Of course. I mean, I get that, right? If I have children and I don't want my children, just like you may not want your children to be read a pro-gay book by a transsexual, which at the end of the day, I really personally don't give a shit about, because all they're really trying to do, I don't think, is indoctrinate children to be gay. And I think it's more about
you don't think that there's been a movement by the Democrats that have been promoting and influencing children to be gay?
No,
in America.
I do not think that.
I'm very surprised because there's been a lot of money. It's also big business.
Homosexuality is not a
queer.
choice.
We're coming for your children.
That's
you never seen that
that's
video?
the thing. Like when like I actually am very deeply ingrained in the homosexual community of Boston through my chosen sister, right? And I have spent a lot of time with trans people, with homosexuals, and one thing unequivocally they all make abundantly clear is that to be a homosexual is not a choice. And so I do not think that you can indoctrinate children into doing something that is not a choice.
You can indoctrinate children into doing anything.
But being
homosexuality is not a choice. I mean, it's just a biological fact that it is not a choice. And so therefore, I don't really give a shit about what color hair, what part you got between your legs, how fucking weird you look. I don't really give a shit about that. If you're qualified to teach children, then so be it. Like, and I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people saying that. But to me, it's not that crazy of a concept, honestly. Now, I think that that's where we should be focusing our time with our children? No, I don't think we should be focusing our time on doing that. But I also, as a former progressive liberal who still holds progressive values, I see no issue in normalizing things, because that is kind of the last step. Right, the last step of like the oppressed, and we can, I think, all agree that homosexuals have been oppressed in this country for a very long time. The final step of going from oppression to not being oppressed, the final step is adoption, is normalization, is that homosexuals actually don't want to be treated differently for being homosexual. They actually want to be treated the same. They actually don't want people fucking even caring that they're a homosexual and having that factor into it. Right. So when somebody is reading a book that's pro-homosexual to a child, to my understanding, it is more about normalizing, because that is the last part of the oppression cycle.
Right, but the thing that's different between homosexuality and transgenderism is that the transgender people do take on a persona of somebody else, and also would recommend that you call them and allow them to take on something other than themselves. I personally believe that I can agree and resonate with the facts that maybe to some degree homosexuality is not a choice. It is something that is genetic,
but it's just objectively not a choice.
But transgenderism is. You do have to choose to be a different gender.
Have either of you known transgendered people and like actually sat and talked to them in your life?
Yes.
Yeah. I actually have a great story about this. So there was
my sister is transgender.
You said that, yeah. and you believe that she made that choice and didn't feel as though she was of the opposite sex.
No, personally, I think pedophilia has traumatized her to compartmentalize her identity, is what I believe. But
you know what? I'm actually glad you said that, because I've known a lot of, like, I have a lot of gay friends and stuff. I know people. I have trans friends, but I think that there is a truth that it is true that a lot of people that are okay. Let me put it this way: what if we found out that the reason that a lot of people are, and more people now than ever, are becoming gay, it's not just that it's some sort of influence. Like, it's not because transgender people are reading pro-gay books in school. But what if we found out that it really did have something to do with something in our water or something in our food? All these hormones, that you have these hormonal imbalances that are throwing people off, and that has something to do with it. What if we found out that a lot of people that are gay and trans is because they're sexually abused, and that has thrown something off in their heads? That it not necessarily like they should be punished or ostracized or something.
But that would be their experience. That'd be their experience, no different than Trevor being a former addict who found a religion that then he chose
religion.
To put a faith. Right, a belief system that he then has integrated into his life to be the person that he believes he is inside. I see no difference in that personally, because let's say a person becomes transgendered because they were abused as a child and it confused them and whatever. that still is their legitimate experience, and that is the legitimate conclusion that they, in a sovereign nation, has come to. They have the right to do that.
So I have a question for you. Do
you know,
is the reason you're so against a Christian nation is because if it was a Christian nation, it would go against your political views on transgenderism and homosexuality, because transgenderism and homosexuality is a complete opposite of what Christians believe. So I'm just asking in real time.
No. I'm against America being a theology, because I think it is fundamentally incompatible with the Constitution, with America, and what this country stands for.
Is there any theology that's not religion? What is the theology that we all need to embrace to have a better America, though?
I mean,
there has to be a baseline understanding and a theology of ideas and concepts and morals and ethics for baseline for all of us to adopt.
It's not a theology.
Everything's theology. Everything's theology.
Okay, if you want to call it a theology or a way of thinking, it's already laid out in all of our founding documents. It's like that simple to me. To me, it's that simple. We live in a sovereign nation where you can choose to live how you want to live, so long as you do not infringe on the rights of other people to live how they want to live. It's quite simple. And
that's not happening today. Like people don't have the freedom to live how they want to live today.
I think we've seen the erosion of our sovereignty at the individual level for decades.
I agree.
Piece by piece. It's not saying that like what percentage of sovereignty is gone at this point. I couldn't
You
say.
said the word infringe, so I'm just asking a clarifying question. To live how they want and not infringe on others, what is that infringing that's happening? Like, how is it that people are not being able to live like they want? Are we still categorizing like the transsexual, homosexual community, like they're not able to live how they want, or is it like a more generalized thing?
It's more like I have the right to live life how I so choose, but I don't have the right to end your life. Right?
Correct.
Like those types of things. Right. I shouldn't be able to get ahead by making you go back. Right. Like those types of things. Right. Like,
all right, hold on. I want to get back to what we were saying, because I do have a point that I want to make. And again, like I am for gay rights. I believe that consenting adults, as long as they're not harming any kids, I don't care how you dress. You dress like a guy, you dress like a girl. You like who you screw is your business. Like I don't care. I respect everybody. I love everybody. I'm comfortable. Yeah, of course, obviously, which I'm going to get to in a second. But like, and the views that I have, I don't find them offensive. Like, if there are people out there that get offended, like I apologize. Like, I try to be empathetic. Like, I'm not like my intention is, I'm not like one of these smug people that's like acting like I got it all figured out.
I don't think,
kind of judgmental. No, but some people, like, they get really sensitive. Like, if you're not like extra supportive, like they kind of treat you the same way that like, some Jews will treat you if you say, hey, I don't think that we should be killing kids in Gaza. They're like, oh, you're anti-Semitic.
Or they'll treat you the same way.
No, but it's the same thing. Like, if you say, like, hey, I don't really feel comfortable about, a transgender reading pro-gay books to my, you're transphobic, you're homophobic. It's like, no. Like, I just have my own beliefs. But can we just agree on the fact that there is at least a high probability that a lot of people, maybe not gay, but people that are trans have either had some sort of abuse or some sort of negative impact on their life that has led them to make those decisions?
Sure, potentially.
I think for me,
some cases,
the homosexuality is more baseline. The transgenderism is more trauma or influenced. I think my personal belief. I think that the homosexuality,
but everybody has trauma.
Right. But I just think that the aspect to change and to I don't really know where I'm going with this. I just think that homosexuality is more of a natural instinct in human biology.
I agree with you.
I mean, they didn't,
and that's why gay people shouldn't be judged. You know what I mean? Like, listen, if there is a God,
because it's not a choice.
But if there is a God and it is sin, then that's between them and God. It's not our place to judge, and that is part of what being a Christian is about. It's that it's not for us to judge each other. That we're all going to have to deal with God. But that's not even the whole point that I'm trying to make. The other point that I'm trying to make is if we could establish, okay, yeah, being gay is more natural. It's more organic in the sense that people don't have the choice. But if they're gay, if they're trans, then there's more likely than not some trauma behind it that have influenced them into going down that path. Now, if that's the case, if we could establish that as a fact, that is the reason. Okay, we can establish that there's a high probability.
But there's no scientific studies that I'm aware of that proves that beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm just saying, if there was, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't something that I've like gone too deep down the rabbit hole with the analytics because there's like so much to cover. And
like Trevor,
I'm not trying to spend my time.
I'm a sexual abuse victim. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Trevor's been open about that in his own live streams and stuff like that. Trevor, do you feel compelled to be trans, even though you actually share the DNA with somebody who has actually transitioned after also experiencing something somewhat similar, right?
I think humans internalize and process and integrate trauma differently. I think that maybe the trauma I experienced could have turned me gay.
Then the question then becomes,
I think that trauma, I don't think we fully, even as a human species, fully grasp what trauma does neurologically, besides like obviously like brain scans or whatever.
So let's outlaw trauma. Let's outlaw trauma, right? You can't do that, right? So the trauma being a potential basis, let's say it is the basis. It is the very thing that is present in every single transgender person in the world. You can do nothing to fix that. You cannot legislate that away. You cannot stop trauma from happening.
We can just prosecute pedophiles, actually, though.
Hold on
for that.
Right. But I think that's why one of the biggest problems is that over long periods of time, society has kind of just turned a blind eye. Pedophiles get slaps on the wrist, 6 months in jail, and it's just perpetuated this predatory environment that a lot of humans are living in.
Because our greatest ally,
has
too much influence on this country.
Trevor, I want to ask something. This question is for you. It's an opinion-based question. In your opinion, when you, especially with how close you are to the subject, having a relative, having what the experiences that you've had, which I'm sorry to hear, but when you see these situations of like the cases I'm referring to of like transgenders showing up in kindergarten, it's a two-part question. One, do you think that is politically motivated or for the best interest of the children?
Okay, so my opinion goes a little bit deeper. I think that the propaganda machine took a hold of the sexuality identity politics and propagated them to demasculinize, to make it so our country was less masculine. That's what I personally believe is the reason why that was happening. But I just, when it comes to this aspect, like Jimmy had said, it doesn't matter to me if you're a consenting adult, between two consenting adults, if you're gay or trans. Where I get the issue is that it influences any sort of a child's life at all. I don't think that the first day in second grade, kids should go into school and have to fill out a form to introduce themselves to their class, and their sexuality is part of the demographic of information that they give out. I don't think that, me personally, I would never take my kids to a situation that I don't think that they were mature enough to understand and be able to have a grasp of what's happening, and not allow the situation itself to be traumatic because we're watching a person who looks like a chick who has a beard tell my son and read a picture book and show him pictures of two boys kissing. I personally don't think that is appropriate. I think that the human experience is intended to be unique for everybody. And I just think that there is an attack on our children. I think there's an attack on our soul. I think there's an attack on God. I think there's an attack on the human species. And I think that getting us, I mean, if we wanted to go back to when we were talking about like identity politics and like racial politics when it came to Obama, I think that this sexual politics is very much a big player as every other aspect of politics, because it wasn't until, I mean, sure, there was a long periods of time where people were closet gays. There was a long period of time when being gay became more predominant, and I have close friends that in growing up that got beat up just because they were gay, type thing. That does still happen. Sure, I can't say that it doesn't, because I don't think that's
for sure still happens. Yeah,
we're not talking about Jesse Smollett type thing, you know. It's like people
probably
but you know what I'm saying. But people probably actually do get persecuted because of their sexual orientation.
Well, for sure, they still do.
I think that I do believe that the mass programming and push specifically for the transgender was targeted specifically to young males, because we're not, to be honest, during that period of time, there wasn't a whole bunch of chicks becoming dudes were the problem. It was a whole bunch of dudes becoming chicks and walking into bathrooms and causing problems. And even in the prison system, if you were to do research about the transgender stuff in prison, like people will get the transition in prison because it's fine, and then go to the next side and there's sexual abuse and the prison's happening with all of it. It just, the whole idea around this caused such I'll say a Candace word, a kerfuffle, you know, a kerfuffle amongst what it means to be a human in America, because up until then, the Christian ethics was the baseline of how society was structured. You don't steal, you don't lie, you help your neighbor, you're generous, you're compassionate, except all those things. And then a culmination of all of these things that in my perception might be perceived as anti-Christian caused the Christians in themselves to even get involved in the vortex of arguments. But I don't think that it is appropriate for a transgender person to come into a library in an elementary school and dress and talk and propagate that type of information, whether it's negative or positive. That's not for me to decide. I just don't think that's the arena for a 6-year-old kid. Should be worried about Spider-Man and learning stuff like that, not questioning whether he's straight or if he's actually a boy or not. That's where
now let me ask you the second part of the question. If you have a transgender person that's in that situation where they're reading books, whether educational, well-intended, I'm not assuming any malicious intent for transgender people, like that's not what this is about. Mm-hmm. But in your personal opinion, do you think that they are doing it for the best interest of the children? Or is it a way for them to cope and work out their own traumas?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there could be potential of both. I think potentially maybe these transgender people have unhealed inner child trauma, and being around children potentially is going to make them molest them, and or it makes them heal something inside of themselves. I mean, the molestation part comes from the trauma being reciprocated, and if it's a known fact that people who are sexually abused have significantly higher chance of being a perpetrator themselves. Mm-hmm. I can't say whether it is to act upon the perpetration or if it's to heal something, but it did seem very weird to me. Why wasn't transgender people going to high schools and reading books?
Well, I'm not even going in that direction. I'm not assuming any malicious intent.
That's a valid question.
No, but I'm not assuming any malicious intent. There's no innuendo there that they're doing that because they're
no, me either. I was just putting
no predatory.
Both
but my whole thing is are they doing it for the kids, or are they just trying to work out their own traumas, even if it means dumping that trauma onto the children that are 5-6 years old and impressionable?
I wouldn't necessarily even label it as trauma. There's a high possibility that these trans people feel such a sovereign feeling, a freeing feeling, that they want to express it to the next generation of people. Kind
of like Christians sometimes.
They want to just say they want everyone to know that they're free. Now, do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but that also, I wasn't trying to say that it was malicious or the reason they're reading books is because they want to rape these kids. I wasn't necessarily saying that. I was just putting out the aspect that with if their transgender choice is trauma influenced, it could be one of two things: that they're trying to heal a child wound, or they are like the dude that dresses like a chick and then goes and molests a girl inside of a bathroom, you know?
I would like to take a stab at that, because I think that first and foremost, I think that the basis of it, the heart is actually there, right? Like I said earlier, the final step from oppression to acceptance is normalization, right? Now, is the execution good? In some cases, probably not, right? In some cases, probably not. I think it's a case-by-case basis, just like you're asking one of those two potential reasons as to why they're doing it. But also there's also the potential reason that they're just trying to normalize things. And the younger children are more impressionable than, the older teenagers. They're probably less likely to get made fun of, right? Like, teenage boys are absolutely ruthless.
Yeah, but Kevin, let me ask you, if they were teaching more Christian ethics in school, wouldn't there also be a better chance that less kids would be getting made fun of?
Teaching Christian ethics, like I was trying to, and I was kind of making a joke, and maybe it was kind of a little bit of a tasteless joke, but I actually kind of think it's kind of true. It's almost like Christianity is like veganism or transgenderism in this frame that you're putting it as, like, where they're trying to, where some of them are potentially trying to, indoctrinate people. Like, you as a Christian feel so good as a Christian that you love Christian, that you love it so much, and you love me so much that you want me to feel the same thing that you feel. And a transgender person may I feel so free in my body because I made this choice, that I want children to know, or I want, people to know that there is another way if they feel like me, and they can be empowered like I am. For the same thing for a vegan. I feel so good as a vegan that I'm going to tell other people about veganism so that they can become vegan, so that they can feel as good as me, or that they can hold the same values that I do. Like, I don't want the earth to be destroyed and the planet and the animals to be killed, and we have a better way. And it's all mechanistically the same thing.
Kevin, have you
in
ever?
My opinion.
Both of you guys, it's actually have you ever heard of the Trevor Project?
Oh,
I don't know what that is. No,
they went around to high school students around the country and college kids, and they took a survey on kids and young adults that identified as gay or trans. I don't have the exact analytics of how many people were surveyed, but it was nationwide. Do you know what the percentage of that said that they seriously considered committing suicide in the year 2025 was, though?
Oh, it's probably really high.
Of kids who identified as gay?
As gay, trans, yes. Gay or trans.
What the percentage
the LGBT community that was surveyed. And these are individuals between the ages of 13 and 24.
What was the percentage that said they were suicidal?
Yes.
90%.
No, not that high.
No, yeah, it's probably going to be over 50%.
No, not that high. It was 36,
okay,
which I still think is
quite high.
A very high number.
High, yeah.
And that,
I don't know why.
And 10%.
What does that tell you?
No. Hold on. What that tells me something that you guys thought that it was going to be that high.
Yeah. Well,
the fact that you said, it's probably like 90%. Why do you think that it would be that high?
Well, I think that they're taking a bold step to change their gender or to be outspoken about their sexuality in a emotionally charged environment where repercussions could potentially coming, especially in a high school type setting. The immense amount of pressure or liberty, it could be either one, but the immense amount of pressure from the society or the community of that school could just be so overbearing. They made the choice and they don't agree with it now. They get made fun of every single day. They're super self-conscious about themselves because they've chosen to take on another gender, and they're worried about what everybody thinks about them. Like the emotional and mental capacity for a teenager to deal with that would be, it would be, I think, significantly difficult to deal with as a child. So for some reason, I just automatically assumed that the thoughts of self-exiting would be higher because of, one, their hormones are all out of whack because they're probably taking hormone injections, and their mental health potentially wouldn't be as up to par as other kids, I guess.
So let me ask you, if you took all the kids in a school, like let's say you were going to do some like MKUltra type weirdo study, and you have two schools, you take all the kids in each school, and you have one school, let's say they both have 100 kids, they're small schools. You take one school and all of those kids are transgender and going to go through taking those hormones and making the changes to be this, be the people that they feel they are inside. And then you have another school where all the kids are straight and, it's like a Christian ethics school and they're all reading the Bible. Which school do you think is going to be happier and more productive?
That's a good question. I think I can't necessarily determine on happiness. I would like to assume that there would be more contention and issues at the transgender school, because all of them are growing kids that are still just even trying to figure out how to be a human, not only on top of that trying to figure out how to be the different gender.
And now the point of
but they're in a place where they're not being judged for that because everybody else is going through the same thing.
I don't know. The question of which one's happier is a hard question for me to ask.
How do you even define happiness? First and foremost. And my question more would be like, which is going to be more likely to produce rapists and murderers and the people of the unsavory type in our society? And the reality is it's probably going to be equal in both.
I think it would. I hate to say this, but I think that it would be the transgender school, to be honest, that would have probably the more behavioral issues. I mean,
we like to talk about like transgender school shootings and stuff. There was like 2 ever, but like
lots of white straight Christian kids. You're right. I hear that.
Well, listen, the point of the comparison was not to vilify one or make one look better than the other. The point is to point out the hurt that's going on in that community.
Yeah.
Like that community is really going through shit, and they need to be healed. They need to be healed. They need to be treated with respect. But what's happening is it, just like everything else, it's gotten politicized and it's gotten perverted in a way. And it's gotten it's gotten inflated. And now it's kind of like when I say it's spreading, I mean like the trauma that comes with it is spreading.
Mm-hmm. We live in a traumatic society, but the question then becomes, if it was a school full of 100% gay and transitioning or transitioned transsexuals, or trans people, I think transsexual is not the right term anymore. So trans people, wouldn't it be helpful to have somebody who has gone through that process come to your school and read you a book?
Not when
about
you're
the acceptance, about the acceptance.
Not when you're 6 years old.
I'm just saying, but this is all hypothetical because there's no 100% trans school. There's no 100% straight school, right? So if we're living in the...
So trans school, yes. The trans school, it would be appropriate for a transgender person to come read books, yes.
Yeah, no.
No. If it's a school where it's 100%, then yeah.
Now, I actually would say that it's just as appropriate. Okay. Now, let's say it's a school of teenagers, right? And again, these are all hypotheticals, right? I would think it was just as appropriate for them to go into the 100% straight school. Why? Because in the real world, there's no borders for your sexuality. You are going to interact with straight people, gay people, trans people. You are going to interact with them all. So why not go to the 100% straight school and also teach them acceptance for the other type of people that are nothing like them?
And I think really where that comes in is the political hostility of this situation is that there is a whole bunch of Christian people that have an issue with the way that the transgender community displayed themselves to the public, what they were trying to do, what they're about, how they behave. And traditional Christian communities are like, whoa, this is what we don't agree.
I think that they got used by the powers that be the same way that the black community has gotten used to be weaponized as pawns for divide and conquer tactics.
That's probably true. Now,
I definitely think that's why we're talking about it, is because they were used as pawns in many different obvious ways, regardless. That really doesn't even have to do with anything about their sexuality. It's just that whatever message was being pushed, the narrative.
My question to you guys, to you both, is this. Why is it that nearly every single politician, since we're talking about the politicization of trans and gays. Why is it that that nearly every politician who has ever passed or put forth anti-trans or anti-gay bills of any type oftentimes get found with young children, with transsexuals, or with trans people, right? In all these controversies, this happens constantly.
Oh, I can answer that real easily because
I know the answer too.
You don't have real leadership. You don't have real leaders that are making these decisions and writing these bills. Our elected officials are fucking shills. They're bought out or they're compromised.
I think that the people that are running the show are very privy to everyone's sexual proclivities, and people are put in position because of that exact reason. I mean, if the powers that be know what you self-pleasure to, and what you self-pleasure to isn't socially acceptable, you potentially might find yourself in a position of power.
Maybe.
So, you know,
Think about it. Who
be
is
projection too.
who would be easier to control in America than a freaking conservative a conservative Republican politician who's going around using freaking the Bible to build up their freaking whole image.
Shout out Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out fucking Lindsey Graham.
That's why they put those people in positions, because if they ever got exposed, they know that they would be made out to be a fraud. They would be ostracized. They would lose all their influence. They would lose all their use to the system, and they would just be cast aside. They wouldn't be needed. They'd be shamed in public forever. So of course they're gonna freaking do what they're told.
Yeah.
It's all a fucking crapshoot, dude. This world, like.
And I got news for you. If you like read up on people like Michael Aquino and these people in the military that have written books on this stuff, psychological warfare. I'm not. He's written a couple. I'm not sure.
No, he founded the Temple of Set, which is a satanic religion.
Yes. He's a high priest Satanist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But these people say that people that are sexually abused, especially at a younger age, are easier to control. That was a whole big thing. That was a giant part of the MKUltra program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sexual trauma.
Yeah. So think about it.
Yeah,
if you have a whole population that you're trying to control, who do you think is easier to control?
The ones that are sexually abused.
No, but I'm saying, who do you think is going? But who do you think is going to be easier to control? Somebody a closeted homosexual like Lindsey Graham, who's taking it in the ass by trans people and going around preaching the Bible, or somebody like Charlie Kirk that was like actually living it and believed in Jesus? Like this is what you don't understand. Christianity is the biggest threat to power structures. It is the biggest threat to the any government, especially the American federal government.
Which is why I mean, listen, let's say I agreed with that 100%. That is further confirmation for me that it should not control or be ingrained with any power structure.
So
like the American
you'd rather be controlled by Zionists?
No, I would rather all religion be out of all politics across the board, everywhere and forever and ever and ever and ever, because I'm an American. And as an American, I believe our founding fathers left Europe and came here for a good reason, to separate church and state. And I do not believe that morals and ethics come from the Christian religion, because I have morals and I am ethical and I reject the religion. In fact, I reject all religions. So I don't think morality comes from religion. I think that is a lie that has been told to Christians forever and ever. And so I don't think that your morals and your ethics as a Christian supersede anybody else's morals or ethics. I think America got it right. We got it right when we started this thing. We got it right.
But you don't understand like what it means to be a Christian. Like religion is bullshit.
Yeah,
man.
I grew up a Roman Catholic and I converted to Christianity. I was deeply ingrained.
Being a Christian is just about your personal relationship with Jesus and with God. It's not about infringing it on other people. Like this is like you keep like correlating America being a Christian nation or rooted in Christian ethics with with being controlled by the Christian church or a Catholic church, and that's not what I've been saying.
Because that's where it goes.
This conversation.
That's where it goes, right? Do you if you
in your head, that's where it goes.
No, but you're a history buff. Look at Europe. Look at Europe before we started America. Look at that. Look at what it was like. It was ruled by the church. It wasn't always that way.
Yeah, but the church was not Christian. The Catholic Church was not ever like actually Christian or like really preaching the gospel, and maybe they were preaching it, but they weren't living it. Like, you're talking about a church that was telling poor people that they had to pay indulgences or their family was going to be burning in hell.
I would like to point out that I think that over time, this word Christian does have just a negative stigmatism because of history, where now today in America, I think that there are a lot of people that don't believe in religion, but follow Jesus. And the only word that they can use to tell people that they're a Jesus believer is the word Christian, which kind of just compartmentalizes them into this.
Yeah, it creates this confusion with religion. Like, I don't believe in organized religion. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I go to a church, but I don't know. You have to go to my church to know, like, understand.
But the Christians, whether you follow the religion or the belief structure, however you want to think of it, the cornerstone of it is that we are all inherently sinful. Is that not correct? Right?
Yeah, no, humans are inherently sinful.
Yeah, humans are inherently sinful. It means man is not infallible, right? And so the issue is that you can try to separate the religion and the faith, but the faith will always need a home, right? When we're talking about masses of people, the faith needs a home. And that home is the religion. And the religions are run by men, and men are filled with sin.
No, you're wrong though. You're like just taking things.
Where am I wrong?
Direction.
Where am I wrong?
Because the faith, it's your individual relationship with God.
Then you would just
you have a very like misconstrued, like, this is what I mean. You have a very like strong confirmation bias based on what you've seen with organized religion. I'm not talking about organized religion in any sense of the word.
Every faith finds a home. That home,
but you could say the same thing with government. Every single government ends up having corruption and
correct. That is actually exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that faith always leads to religion, which always leads to manipulation by man, the same way that governments do. It functionally works the same way, which is why we needed to start a separate country to define what that is and separate it indefinitely. That is America. That is what makes America great. That is what actually makes America great.
Fuck yeah.
You see what I'm saying? This is the thread that it always goes down. And you're a history buff. In fact, in some instances, I actually know quite a lot about theology, right? Because I actually care to understand about the things that I hate or that I am against, so that I can speak intelligently on them. And in all of my research, and I'm certainly no theological expert, right? But I understand theology pretty well. And one thing that always happens is exactly what I laid out. Always, without question. Because the defining thing is that faith breeds religion, religions breed power, men want power.
So could we have a spiritual country without organized religion?
Give everybody acid.
Hell yeah.
And that's a joke, but like that is actually more of a solution than
maybe not acid, maybe some psilocybin.
Yeah,
whatever. Right?
If everybody microdosed, the world would be a little bit better.
See, I think that what a lot of people don't understand about me is that when I say I reject religion and then I am void of faith, they think that also means that I am not spiritual. I am highly spiritual. Highly spiritual. I have found my own version of individual spirituality, and I'm so okay with that. Now, functionally, that probably looks a lot like what your version of Christianity is, your relationship with Jesus or your relationship with God, right? And God, as I define it, is the thing that you name the things you cannot understand. And so I just don't give it a name. I don't give it a name, right? I believe in the earth spirit. I'm a real crunchy hippie deep down inside, right? Like real motherfucking crunchy, right? I don't need an organized religion. That does not make me better than anybody, right? I just don't need that. Some people need it. Some people need Jesus. And if you feel the great things that you feel because of that, I am so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. Oh, you dropped 150 pounds and you feel great because you're a vegan now? Awesome. I'm still going to eat steak. I'm so happy for you though, right? That's the approach that I have to it all, right? Oh, you actually really like sucking dick? Great for you, bro. I don't, but like fucking stoked for you, bro. Like that's how I am with this stuff. And again, I think we're overcomplicating things. We have a tendency as humans to overcomplicate things, and we have a need to name the things that we don't understand. And that's where I think religion plays into all of it. Because at the end of the day, whether I believe in God or not, whether I follow a religion or a cult or not, like it doesn't actually have any bearing on my life. All that matters is like what I'm doing and how I'm feeling and how I treat others. And that is why people of all religions fuck with me, because like I treat them the same. I don't care what Sky Daddy you believe in. I don't care if you believe in one or not. It doesn't matter to me, right? What matters to me is like, are you happy? Are you a good person? Do you treat people well? That's all that really matters at the end of the day. And I think for most of us, we would all agree. We could all say like, fundamentally, I agree with that, because how could you be against that? Right.
Right.
And that's where it comes down to, is just, I don't name the things that I can't name, or that I can't understand. I'm cool with them being the things that I can't understand. I'm very cool with the fact that as a human, I have a limited availability of understanding of things, just as I have a limited availability of what I can interact with. We know radio waves are around us at all times and all these different waves, and yet we can't see them, we can't feel them, we can't interact with them, but we know they exist. Right. And that's one thing that people say as like, well, like, you know that those waves exist, and just think of God the same way. And I go like, to me, it goes that none of those waves really have any bearing on the experience that I'm having. So why do I even have to think about them? Right. And so at the end of the day, when we're talking about this nation and what it is, we already got it right. We're not a Christian nation. In fact, we are a nation that is void of theology at its base level for a reason, because everything
it's
that they did,
sovereign.
Yeah. And so what's like I could give a shit less what somebody's religion is. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could really care less. Like, just as long as are you happy? Are you good to other people? Cool, man. Like, me too.
Hell yeah.
Have a great day. You know? And I understand the compulsion for you. You think like, okay, I live my life as a Christian. That is what works for me. And this is every person, every Christian I know. Some people from all different religions, but all the Christians I know, they all wish and say what you said to me earlier. One day you're going to know, it's all going to click and it's going to be there for you. And you missed the point where I found that already.
Well, I never said that one day you're going to get it. I said hopefully one day you have that experience.
I have it. I have it every day that I live, consciously and with intent. Right? It's when I take the back seat of my life. That's the same for what you would equate to like being like losing your religion, right? Or stepping away from God, right? it's all about how you live your life and the intention you put into it. And I live my life with intention, right? So if I experience the same experiences that you have, but I don't have to have it wrapped up in a morality tale that some dudes wrote over the course of 200 years, that is basically a game of telephone, it's just like I'm lucky that I just got right to it.
That's what I used to think too. But then, like I said, when you understand how far these people were, how much they traveled, how they were persecuted, how many people died over the story, the tale that you say is a game of telephone, like people were dying over it. And when you see how closely aligned it is without it being verbatim to the point that that it was like concocted together, like you realize it's not just a game of telephone. Like you gotta really dig a little deeper into the history. And that's how I know that it hasn't clicked, because you're very prideful about the subject too.
No, I mean, you got to remember, I grew up in the church. I grew up in a very religious house.
But that doesn't mean anything.
And
most churches don't preach the right thing.
Like I've read the Bible.
You saying like, oh, I grew up in a church, I know what I'm talking about, is the same as someone saying like, oh, I went to medical school, I know that you should take the COVID shot.
No, what I'm saying is that I saw enough in my formative years of being there and being and giving to it and being ingrained into it. I mean, I, like most people, went, well, this is what my family's religion is, so this is what my religion is, and therefore this is part of my identity. And I gave it a real shot, right? And then I had a Christian friend, and him and his family converted me, and I really tried hard to believe.
What do you mean they converted you?
Like, we went through a Christian conversion ceremony with my friend Sheehan and his family.
But what does that mean? What was the process?
Oh, we just like read scriptures, and they told me all about Jesus and God and all of the things that you would tell anybody that you were trying to convert, and gave me readings and things of that, new things to read and things of that nature. And I thought, well, maybe this is like a little bit more in line with how I feel, because they feel so content, like they're so happy and content, and they are living the types of lives that I wish that I lived. And so I did that, and then I found it to be just as empty as everything else. And then I thought, really, maybe it's just not for me, right? And then again, I was in CCDs, and I was in all of these religious classes with nuns and stuff, and I'm picking apart like the stories, because I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Like Noah's Ark doesn't make sense, like logistically does not make sense, functionally does not make sense. It defies everything about science that we know, and yet I can't go along with this. Like, I can't go along with this. And then I found that it was also a very intolerant religion, because when I asked questions, I was met with being struck by a ruler, not by talking it out and trying to convince me.
Yeah, no, but that's not Christianity. That just seems
no. That was in the Roman Catholic, right? That was my Roman Catholic experience, right? All I'm saying is that through all of that, I realized that I am not of the mind that's compatible for this, and that'll never change, right? Just like I know I don't want to have kids and I don't want to get married, and that's not going to change no matter how many people tell me how amazing their children are and how amazing it is to have a partner in their life. It's never going to convince me to want that. I'm okay with that, by the way. Like, I'm okay with all of that, because I'm actually very happy and content. And isn't that all that should matter? Happy, content, doing right by other people, right? This is why, like, people of all religions, they mess with me, man, because, like, at the end of the day, like, I can be those things without tying it to a religion or a faith, because I'm a non-believer. The word faith is where I have the biggest struggle, because I have faith in nothing.
By what you just said, comparing it to how you identify to yourself and your happiness, do you think that Christians identify that they're happy because they believe in God?
I mean, that is a sentiment said to me, not by all, but by many. Yes.
I would differentiate the two. That's why I was asking the question.
Many people will say things like your life doesn't really start until you have a relationship with God, right? And I go, well, like, what have I been doing for the last 41 years? Because I've been doing right by people, right? Like, I'm
a firm believer. I don't mean by any means. I don't think that whether you believe in God determines whether or not you're a good person or kind or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that people that say stuff like that,
they're usually newly orthodox. It's the newly orthodox.
People, listen, they're different. Like people. All right, there are people that make a lot of mistakes, that are broken in some way, whether it's drugs, alcohol, victims of abuse.
Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody gets broken at some point.
Oh, Kevin, but you're like not listening. You're just
I'm listening. I am listening.
But there are people that they, no pun intended, they find God and it becomes like their turning point, and then they correlate the fact that they found God with their changes, and they probably, consider that as like their repentance, and that's like I think that's where the term like born again really comes in. It's more so with people that are like broken in some way and that they heal through their faith. And then there are people like me that go through what you go through and then like get there when you're already healed and already in a clear mind. So that's why when I hear terms like that, it doesn't really resonate with me in my experience, because that's not.
Well, look at the 12-step program. The 12-step program is a Trojan horse for Christianity. It is. It's.
I've never looked into the 12.
So the 12-step program is the 12 steps to sobriety, right? This is an old system that's been going on for decades. And
I stopped cold turkey.
These are meetings that are typically held in churches, in like church basements, right? And the ultimate thing is that you're going through your steps. That's what they say. I'm going through my steps. And none of the steps are overtly converting you to Christianity, but the end result is always Christianity. Always.
Is
right?
It?
Yeah. I mean, you if you ever talk to anybody who's gone through recovery, through that specific form of recovery, every time, everyone
I never
has found some sort of religion.
Are, so.
Yeah, so the 12-step program is and I think of it as a Trojan horse to Christianity for broken people, right? Because like, again, we don't need to overcomplicate things. Humans are pretty predictable, right? The psychology of humans is pretty predictable. When you've reached rock bottom, you've lost hope, right? You need to replace that with hope. And the best hope that you can have is faith in something bigger than you, that you can trust in. That if I do my steps, if I do this, then God's got me.
So it's not necessarily a Trojan horse into Christianity. It's just a Trojan horse into religion, into like a higher power based structure.
Yeah, but it was started by the Christian church.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure, right? So let's look at it. 12 steps, origins. I gotta go soon because it's mad.
Yeah, me too. It's almost 5 in the morning.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the 12 steps became from Alcoholics Anonymous in the 1930s, created by co-founders Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob Smith, drawing inspiration from their own personal sobriety and a Christian fellowship called the Oxford Group. They were first published in 1939 in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, known as the Big Book. And that is largely gone unchanged for 90-something years.
Bill, from the Big Book, there's documented of Bill contributing a mass portion of his sobriety to an LSD trip, by the way. But
yeah,
I believe that.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys.
All right.
Well, this has been a really fun and interesting. I thought we were going to be a little lighter, but yeah, we ended up. But
no, I had fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm really
fun.
glad. We got to do this again soon.
It was fun to talk to you guys.
But Trevor, you want to close out? You got something that you want to say? First off, you're on YouTube too?
Yeah, YouTube, Twitch at Trip Over Drip. Kick is Trip_over_drip. My Facebook is just Trevor Hess. That's my. It didn't intend to be a social media platform. It was my personal Facebook at one time, but
oh, it's funny. I use
blown
my
up.
too.
Yeah, I started after I got out of prison, and then this is where we're at. You know,
dude, it's like his Facebook has like 500,000 or some shit.
Well, Trevor, next time you come on, I'll do an interview with you, and if you want to share your story.
Bro, I'm down to come on anytime. We could talk about anything. We could talk about God. We could go down rabbit holes. We could talk about mental health. We could talk about addiction. We could. Yeah.
We'll definitely do it real soon. Kevin, you want to tell everybody where to find you?
Kevin is a human on everything. I live stream. I do YouTube. Mostly my YouTube is just clips from my live stream, but I am starting to do real YouTube videos here soon. And I talk about a lot of like corruption, AI, transhumanism, and how that intersects with religion and humanity. And super stoked.
Can I just send you down one more quick rabbit hole? I'm just going to specify the information. The very first narrative film ever created was it's in French, but it's basically a woman selling children out of cabbages, and which is the origin of the Cabbage Patch story of the incubator babies in the Tartaria and the World Fairs with the Great Reset. I just wanted to leave you all with a rabbit hole to go down.
Trevor, you want to say something else to close out, because we've been talking about a lot of deep stuff. You want to give your take on everything, because I know me and Kevin were going back and forth
so
a lot of it.
A lot of the political stuff you guys were talking about, I was just here for the conversation. I never voted or was involved in politics until Kamala versus Trump. I paid attention to it, but I wasn't involved in it. I was at one point a Christian. I am no longer religious. I have a deep spiritual connection with what I identify as source or God. I think that this was a very profound conversation, a lot of learning for myself, as well as learning about two individuals that I like to talk to. And I'm glad that we have had this opportunity now to speak one-on-one base. You know what I mean? I just think that the division and the hatred and the separation that has been propagated in our society for decades has created such a hostile environment where we no longer allow each other to conversate and interject and have conflicting ideas to actually reach a solution. The solution never gets really to where it needs to be because of people's personal beliefs about how things should be or shouldn't be. I just think that Atlantis, and the only reason Atlantis was able to even be the super technologically advanced civilization what it was, is because we were all united. We all recognize that each and every one of the humans I experience on a day-to-day is just a reflection of myself, and that we are all human. We're all part of the human species. We have to worry about the satanic pedophiles, the robots, the reptilians, the grays. We got to worry about CERN creating interdimensional beings, and now AI trying to deep fake us. So I think that actual humans need to actually do whatever's necessary and put whatever differences aside for the betterment of the human race. And really, that's just coming to the realization that we're all, I mean, religious people will say this, but we're all really like brothers and sisters. We all really are like the same exact thing, and we all experience the same way. We all have the same emotions. We all have trauma. We all have issues and problems and the struggle to survive, and turning your cheek and just always remembering that at the end of the day that we're here to remember why we're here, and love is the answer, really. You know, love is the feeling that prevails. Love is an energy that transmutes through the cosmos, and that's what's under attack, is that they don't want us to love each other. They want us to hate each other because of our skin, hate each other because of our political beliefs, our spiritual beliefs, when in all actuality, we're all just the same thing, all doing the same thing. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and we are all trying to collectively figure out how to do it. And I just think that having conversations where sometimes I'm looking at Kevin like, damn, Kevin, you're crazy. Like, what? You believe that? And people probably believe the same thing about things that I say. But the fact that we can come here together and have this conversation and all still leave as homies is just an example in real time that people can debate things and have completely different views, especially when it comes to God and whether God is real or God is not real, because that is a controversy or a conversation that's happened throughout all of time, is whether that is real or not. That we could gather like that, and that this is just a prime example of like what it really actually means to like to really try and talk about things that actually matter and see conflicting views, and if it applies, let it fly. If it doesn't apply, then just let it fly, but whatever resonates, just take with you.
I just want to add
really
one.
well said.
That was very well said. I want to sum up everything that Trevor just said into one beautiful line from a Jerry Garcia band song that he didn't write even, but he just says, through this world of trouble, we got to love one another.
Yep.
And that's
All
the
right.
truth.
I love you guys. Good night.
And on that note, have a great night, everybody. Thank
Peace
you
out.
very much.